Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk for a Friday. It is January 6th. The year is 2023, and look at that right there outside. High five camera over the mighty Mississippi there with the bridge, the I-40 bridge, the bridge of many names. I-40, Hernando de Soto, the new bridge. And there it is. Bathed in sunshine on a Friday. It is cold out there. Temperatures in the 30s. Going to reach to the 50s today. Here's another shot from our Midtown High Five camera there. Lots of sunshine, but guess what? We got some rain this weekend. Brittany Bryan has details.
Good morning and happy Friday. Let me show you that first alert weekend forecast because it includes a chance for rain. We have a 60% chance on Saturday. It does look like a rainy day, and then maybe even a few showers early Sunday, but it looks mainly dry on Sunday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday, but as that front moves through here, it will bring highs back down to the lower 50s on Sunday. Obviously not a very strong front though, since temperatures aren't going to drop too much. Let's look at timing. So this morning we'll have sunshine and dry, but by 4 o'clock we'll have clouds moving in. You could see a stray shower anytime tonight. If anything, it would be a few sprinkles or some patchy drizzle. But by tomorrow morning, we start to see some heavy rain setting up over towards Dyersburg and into Tipton and Lauderdale County, a few showers in Memphis and DeSoto County. And you'll just have scattered showers all day. So you will see some breaks in the rain. However, with this type of rain, it's hard to plan around it. If I were you, I'd just plan something to do indoors on Saturday. This is 3 o'clock. Again, still some spotty showers around and across the entire area. And we'll keep that around through late Saturday night. This is 7 o'clock. Now, if we did get some heavy rain in any parts of the area, it'd probably be over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. As that front stalls out, it will stick around in those areas, as I mentioned, and there could be some showers in northeast Mississippi through Sunday morning. Right now, though, we have full sunshine. This is what it looks like in Midtown Memphis. But later today, I told you, though, we'll get some clouds rolling in. But even with clouds, we're still going to have temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. At your lunch hour today, around noon for most of us, 50 degrees, 56 at 3 o'clock. So over the next 12 hours, you do get a little spike in temperatures, and then we'll be down to the upper 40s by 7 o'clock tonight if you have any Friday night plans. 56 degrees is the high today, and then 46 degrees is the low temperature tonight. Since we have that chance for rain in the forecast tonight and over the weekend, I highly recommend you get our First Alert weather app. It's free. Search for WMC or Action News 5 in the App Store to download it. And you can use the radar on there to zoom into street level. Plus, we post video updates. And in the updates, we have been talking about the timing for rain this weekend if you want to keep up to date. 50s today. I showed you the 50s over the weekend too, and we don't really see temperatures dropping down considerably until maybe the end of next week. 56 degrees on Monday with sunshine. We have another chance for rain on Tuesday. A few showers will be possible that day, and then Wednesday we dry out again before our next front arrives on Thursday, and that will bring some scattered showers and thunderstorms. But at this point, I don't have any severe weather in the forecast for the next week.
Okay, so let's get to some of our top stories here. Federal funding has been pulled from a Memphis apartment complex deemed a public nuisance. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development severed ties with Whitehaven's Peppertree Apartments. Action News 5's Bria Bolden has a breakdown on how we got here.
For years, the Peppertree Apartments has been plagued by fires, unsanitary living conditions, and safety concerns.
They would have been dead, man. They had number concrete and steel.
Thursday, in Shelby County Federal Court, Peppertree owner Tesco Properties in the city agreed to extend the order preventing new leases at the complex for another 120 days. However, City of Memphis Chief Legal Officer Jennifer Sink says the Department of Housing and Urban Development went a different route, abating their contract.
There were 2 different inspections that were conducted of the property, and the owner received failing scores and apparently is now in default. And so HUD had as a remedy available to them the ability to cancel the HAP contract, and that's what they elected to do.
It's welcome news for Memphis officials who've been in and out of federal and environmental court with the embattled complex.
This has been a long road, and it has been going on for quite a while, so we're happy to see some kind of resolution, because ultimately what this means is that those residents are going to find themselves living in a place that's safe and that's decent and that's sanitary.
District Attorney Steve Mulroy echoes that sentiment, saying in part, quote, "While forcing residents to relocate is always unfortunate, these tenants deserve safe and healthy conditions. We're glad glad that our efforts have borne fruit and that HUD in the city will assist in relocation efforts. HUD has not said where Pepper Tree's residents like Connie Huddleston will go.
It makes me upset, and I want to cry. Probably I'll go home and cry, because this is all I got. If they close it down or anything like that, I'm going to be out in the street. I've been in homeless 5 times already.
For others, like Tanya Williams, who didn't want to go on camera, this is a chance at a fresh start.
I can't do nothing but praise God. I can't thank God for everything He done walking me through these whole 3 years with this apartment. I can't do nothing but thank Him. If it wasn't nothing for Him, I don't know what to do.
Okay, that was Bria Bolden reporting. The defense counsel for Tesco Properties told us they had no comment on HUD pulling their contract. We're also hearing back from HUD. The city of Memphis says HUD vouchers will be issued in the next 60 days for residents of the Pepper Tree apartments. All right, let's talk about Governor Bill Lee's announcement of an ambitious plan to address some traffic issues across the state of Tennessee here. So his strategic infrastructure plan would tackle growing pains that so many different cities across Tennessee are feeling thanks to record growth throughout the state. He laid out what is called Build With Us. It's a plan out of Nashville saying the plan will help TDOT solve some of the state's current future mobility challenges. Some of the proposed solutions include public-private partnerships to create choice lanes we told you about back in November. Those lanes are express lanes that drivers pay to use. All this will be considered in the upcoming legislative session. This week, residents in Earle, Arkansas, under new mayoral leadership. 18-year-old Jalen Smith, the youngest mayor in the U.S., began his first official week in office on Monday, just ahead of Tuesday's flash flooding. In his first week as being mayor in the town of just under 2,000 residents, he met with his department heads and put expectations on the top of his list. Also implementing purchase requests, daily inspections on different things like water systems and draining systems, especially after the flash flooding. He says, luckily, the city was not affected as previous flooding situations did.
Give me a chance to do what I need to do. Like I always tell people, it's not going to happen overnight. But if I want to show the people effort, action, and results. Because if we're showing people those three principles, they'll see, well, this guy's actually doing something.
Starting next month, Jalen Smith plans to hold a citywide cleanup once a month to beautify the town of Earle, Arkansas. Unemployment assistance is designed to help Americans when they lose their jobs, and when the pandemic hit, the system was put to the ultimate test. Nearly $900 billion in emergency funds were paid out. Amid the relief, billions were also lost to fraud. Consumer investigator Carice Jackman digs into the numbers to find out where the money went and what's being done to protect your tax dollars.
But why do you think we were not prepared for this?
Well, I think nobody could have predicted the spike in claims that we saw during the pandemic.
Millions of Americans out of work.
We've already lost our apartment.
There's nobody to talk to. It's impossible.
The federal government handing out hundreds of billions in unemployment aid.
Probably the biggest thing I've had to deal with life as so far.
But with that assistance came significant fraud.
For the victims who were denied benefits, these cyber criminals got the money first. And our research shows, as the chair noted, 40% were unable to pay their bills, 14% were evicted, 33% could not pay for food.
But where was the breakdown that allowed this fraud to happen? Flashback to the spring of 2020. The federal government, as part of the CARES Act, dedicated more than $872 billion through the Pandemic Unemployment Insurance Program. But this September, the Department of Labor's own Inspector General said from March 2020 through April 2022, more than $45 billion was paid out in potentially fraudulent claims. The tactics used by fraudsters range from people filing for benefits in multiple states to using the names of the deceased, to suspicious email accounts attached to claims. In their semi-annual report to Congress, the Department of Labor's Inspector General said it was a combination of factors that led to such rampant fraud. The unprecedented infusion of federal funds into the unemployment program, combined with stolen personal information, plus the program's weaknesses over the last several years.
Now, the Inspector General's report looked at fraud losses throughout the entire system, but we wanted to break it down statewide and look at what states
states found when it comes to potential losses due to fraud. Millions of dollars lost for families in dire need of help. So we reach out to more than 24 states to find out how much money they lost due to fraud and identity theft over the last 2 years. We heard back from about a dozen. All of them lost over $1 million, some much more than that. For instance, in Pennsylvania, state officials say they found an estimated $6 billion in fraud across all unemployment compensation programs. Michelle Evermore is the Department of Labor's Deputy Director for Policy at the Office of Unemployment Insurance Modernization. Her department is now targeting changes at the federal and state level following a scathing review from their own Inspector General.
What is being done right now to ensure that we can tackle the next wave or the next emergency?
We have these tiger teams that are composed of fraud experts, equity experts, and they really examine all of the bottlenecks in the system and try to figure out, okay, what can we do to promote timely payment while also doing the kind of work that we need to do to ensure that no funds go to fraudsters?
Experts say tracking and fighting fraud has always been challenging, but they say those challenges must be addressed and taxpayer dollars must be protected before the next emergency strikes and Americans turn to federal programs for help.
Carice Jackman reporting there. For months, our investigators have asked the White House for an interview with Gene Sperling. That's the man in charge of tackling unemployment fraud for the Biden administration. They have not heard back on any request there. All right, so we got some new government data here. It shows weekly jobless claims have fallen to the lowest level since September. Bureau of Labor Statistics says about 204,000 people applied for first-time unemployment benefits last week. Claims for people who have received benefits for more than 1 week also dropped. Many economists have feared the Federal Reserve's inflation-fighting efforts could throw the economy into a recession, and that would lead to layoffs. And we are seeing tens of thousands of people being laid off at certain companies. You see it with Salesforce, you see it with Amazon, and a few others. We'll continue to watch the economic trends throughout the month. All right, Mardi Gras just a few weeks away. It's next month, and the Mississippi Bakery is working overtime to get ready to celebrate there, baking around 2,000 of the king cakes a day. Bill Snyder from our sister station in Biloxi, Mississippi, paid them a visit. Take a look.
And it begins. Carnival season means king cake season here at Paul's Pastry in Picayune.
Mardi Gras is February 21st this year. So when it's a little shorter like that, it starts off with a bang. We're trying to get focused on that, and then next week we'll be up and going big.
They've been doing this for 53 years, and despite a few supply chain issues and labor challenges, they're beginning the process of cranking up and cranking out those king cakes to the tune of 2,000 per day.
We've done it by hand for 4 years. We do get excited about it. We take our time off between Christmas and New Year's, let everybody have a little rest. And to be honest with you, most of us are ready to come back. It's just everybody looks forward to king cake season.
So how's this for an ingredient list? By the time we get to Mardi Gras, Paul's will have gone through 55,000 pounds of fillings, 88,000 pounds of flour, 18,000 pounds of cream cheese. That adds up to 161,000 pounds of ingredients and goodness for king cakes to go all around the country.
This week we're trying to get all of our ingredients in and just getting the store opened and all fresh things being made. And we still make cakes and cookies and everything else besides king cakes.
And we're told the regular season gets cranked up next week when they'll be going 24 hours a day cranking out king cakes for carnival season.
How are your New Year's resolutions? You know, the top two typically are health and exercise and money. And usually by mid-February, we've scrapped it long ago. But if you're still with those New Year's resolutions to better your health, well, this next segment is for you, because we're talking about gut health and how important it is to your overall body. I'm joined right now by Tara Carr. She is a registered dietitian and a gut health expert. Tara, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Talk about gut health for us and how it is so important to our overall health.
Of course. So our gut health is so important for our overall health. what many people don't realize is that so much of our health, whether it be inflammation, how you're actually feeling after you eat, maybe even certain diseases, it all ties back to the gut. So it's not so much you are what you eat, but I think about it is what you feed those microbes in your gut that really can impact your health.
How do we know if we have poor gut health?
That's a great question. So maybe if you're eating foods and you don't feel like you're digesting them well, that could be a sign that there's dysbiosis or maybe not so much of a balance in your gut. Some people do experience things like maybe gas, bloating, those not so fun symptoms. And then other people might have things just like generally tired, right? You just feel like something's off. If you do not feel healthy, or you just, you're trying everything, but you're not so sure what's going on, I certainly suggest getting to the root cause. And often that comes from the gut health. So taking a look at your microbiome is a great thing to do.
Okay, so, for our viewers right now, they might be thinking in their head, okay, I think I may have a problem here. How do we improve our gut health?
Wonderful question. So I am a dietitian. There are some strategies that you can do through foods that you eat, and maybe foods that you don't want to eat. So there might be some foods that are contributing to poor gut health. Some of the top three, that might be artificial sweeteners. Those are tied to maybe not so much a healthy gut. Alcoholic beverages, unfortunately, as well. And then those ultra processed foods. All three of those, not so much supporting a healthy gut. But the good news is there are great foods for our gut. And so if you can think mostly plant-based foods, those are all really high in fiber. So more fruits, more vegetables, more whole grains. By increasing those on your plate, you're going to up your fiber content, and that's what those healthy microbes in your gut really need to thrive. So that's what I would suggest as a good starting point, at least.
Okay, all right, I got you. I'm following you so far. What about tests out there that maybe someone could take? Because you see a lot of them out there about ways to test your gut health to see where you are.
Of course. So there are actually a few on the market. Just a quick Google search would get you to microbiome tests. It's not the cutest test, actually. You do have to send off a stool sample. People analyze it for you, and they will tell you what's in your gut. So more and more research needs to be done on this, but that is an option. If you are interested, talk with your physician, or you could do some looking online if you really want to see what microbes, good bacteria, probiotics are in your gut. That's one way to do it, of course.
I was just thinking about asking you a question regarding supplements. You just mentioned probiotics. Are there supplements that you can take today that may help your gut health overall?
Yes, so probiotics is an amazing thing that you can do for your health. Of course, as a dietitian, try that food. I think that's important regardless if you're going to take a probiotic or not. But there are some probiotics that are generally, most people want them in their guts. So for whatever reason, we age, right? We travel, we maybe don't eat in the ideal way all the time. Some of those beneficial bacteria, they leave the gut. And unfortunately, some of them aren't found in food. So the only way to get them back in is through probiotics. One of the newest ones that's got over like 1,000 research studies done recently is called Akkermansia. And that one actually can only be found at Pendulum Therapeutics. So that's a really great gut support probiotic strain that I like to recommend for people to try. It's a long name, but Akkermansia muciniphila. That's one of the ones that I really suggest for people to think about. Is it in your gut? Do you want to add it to your regimen?
You know, I see a lot of probiotics out there on the market, and there are some that need to be refrigerated. My thought process was if it needs to be refrigerated, it's a good thing because otherwise that bacteria dies, or the good bacteria you want in your gut. Is that right?
Okay, so this can be kind of confusing, and basically you and I, like, think about your thermostat. You have a preferred temperature. It might be different than my preferred temperature, right? So same with these bugs in our gut. Some of them actually do need to be refrigerated because that will help them live longer. And some are actually more stable at room temperature, just depending on how they're manufactured. So my best suggestion is find a company you can trust, and then ask your dietitian, ask your pharmacist, say, do you think this is an appropriate probiotic for me? Do we need to refrigerate this one or not? And of course, if you have a dietitian at your fingertips, we're always happy to be the expert there as well.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about probiotic foods out there, because some people are just like, maybe I should just start eating some foods that have those probiotics, because sometimes you see that on the label.
Right. So probiotic foods, probably the most popular that you probably have in your fridge right now. Yogurt is a very common probiotic food. So there's actually like trillions of different bacterial strains, but that one in yogurt is lactobacillus. So that could be a great way to increase your probiotics through foods. Anything fermented. So I have green olives in my fridge. I love to cook with things that are pickled. Even some cheeses have probiotics in them. So I love to encourage everybody for your gut health, include those probiotic foods. It can be a great thing to increase that diversity in your gut.
Right, sauerkraut, kombucha, of course I hear all those things for probiotics, that sort of thing. All right, so let's say someone is there and they say, all right, I'm approving it today. I'm going to get the probiotics. I'm going to change how much I eat, what I eat. How long does it take to really improve your gut if you make these changes?
So everybody's different, and that's not a fun answer, but it depends on where you're starting out, right? If you're at the state of just, dysbiosis, like your gut is really not in a healthy place, it might take a little bit longer. I suggest for most people, at least 3 months. You really want to get those good probiotics in there and then continue to nurture them. That's just kind of a general amount of time, about 3 months. You might start to see some results. Some people are, of course, sooner, and then some people a little longer, but 3 months on average.
Tara, is there anything else? You've been so informative. We really appreciate this interview. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
Of course. So again, just to recap everything we talked about, if you have a funny feeling that something's off, could be your gut. So ways to kind of improve that, it's either going to be through foods or, of course, through supplementing with probiotics. Pendulum Life is a really wonderful company backed by science. We've got some great probiotics there. So definitely go to pendulumlife.com if you're interested in a really great probiotic. And happy New Year. Don't forget about your goals. As you mentioned earlier, it's not too late to get back to that healthy eating to improve your health.
So true, Tara. Tara Carr, registered dietitian, gut health expert. We appreciate the knowledge. Thanks so very much.
Of course. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, New Year's resolutions. We've been talking about it a lot over the course of the last few days, even before 2023. Which ones are the best ones to have? Which ones can you keep? How is it that most Americans give up after the first month? I mean, that's pretty sad when you think about it. You got to chuckle about it. But when we also talk about the new year, we talk about a new you and perhaps a new career path, of course. Career, workplace, that's something on top of mind of many people. Let's talk about the latest data when it comes to the current job markets and tips for launching a successful job search. Let's bring in our friend we've talked to several times in the past, Angela Copeland, who is now the founder of Copeland Coaching. Angela, Happy New Year to you. How you doing?
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So is it now perhaps the best time, or at least a good time, to make a career move? What do you say?
Now is an excellent time. A lot of companies, over the holidays put hiring on hold. And if you were thinking of looking for a job, this is the time that they are starting to open back up to hiring. And it's a perfect time to start looking. There are so many resources available. It's a perfect New Year's resolution. It's a great time to start.
Last year, Angela, when we talked, you mentioned that it was very much an employee market. I think everybody agreed to the indicators that it was an employee's market. Is it still that way? Has it changed at all? What do you see?
It's a great question. I think it's a little more nuanced than the last time we spoke, because we have seen in the news there have been tons of layoffs over the last, few months. But I would keep in mind that those layoffs are in very particular industries, like they're in tech, for example. So there are many industries like travel, financial services, government that are actually still doing really well. And our unemployment rate overall for the U.S. in November was still 3.7%, which is a very healthy unemployment rate. So there are many companies that are still hiring. It is still a good time to be looking. I will say the dynamics have shifted some since the last time that we spoke, but it is a great time to be looking.
What type of jobs are in demand in 2023? You mentioned that there's been a lot of layoffs in tech. What do you see most in demand?
The industries I would really focus on are those that will do well through a recession, for example. And some of the areas to look in are banking, like financial services, government. The budget for 2023 was approved, and it is more than it was the previous year. And other industries like travel, we've seen people starting to travel again. So it's kind of across all job functions. But hotel companies, for example, are hiring again in a way that they weren't maybe this time last year. So I would really kind of focus on that. And as you're looking online for jobs, you'll see which companies seem to have more jobs posted, which companies seem to be doing better. There's just so much information when you go out and search.
Okay, so now we've talked about, where people need to search, what kind of jobs. It is a good time to kind of make this career move. So let's talk about those secrets to launching a successful job search, because we all know that launching a search is almost like having a job in and of itself.
It is a job. And the thing is, it is a tough job. Job searching has really evolved in the last, let's say, 10 years. And if you haven't looked in a while, you'll feel very discouraged because you may have to apply to 100 jobs to get one job offer. And you may have family members, especially older ones, that say, like, what's your problem? Like, why aren't you getting a job? But you have to understand that with the way that so many job seekers apply online nowadays, it is a harder process than it used to be. It is really a numbers game. So I would say don't get discouraged. Find a friend who is also job searching that you can kind of commiserate with. Don't totally rely on family as you're talking about your struggles. And, another thing I really like to recommend is if you have a connection to a company, or if you can kind of figure out who the hiring manager is, rather than just applying online, to actually send an email to that person, because you really stand out when you're the one applicant that actually took the time to send an email as opposed to just applying online.
Last time we talked about various employers, again, having almost the upper hand in the job market, many of them asking for that work-life balance, working remotely. What are the trends you're seeing now in 2023? Is working remotely still one of those trends that people want, or at least they ask for, and then they get them from the employer?
It is such an excellent question. This is a really hot topic right now. So you've probably noticed in the last few months, especially, many employers have started asking employees to come back into the office, which lots of employees do not want to do, because after 2 years of working from home, we really saw that it was possible. So I think a big change in the job market right now is that some companies are offering totally work from home, others are asking you to come in person, and some are giving sort of a hybrid option. So if you're a job seeker, pay attention to which is which. There are fewer work from home jobs posted right now than there were this time last year. And there's also more competition for those jobs. So I would say on the flip side, if you're a company that's struggling to hire, switching your jobs to work from home is a really good strategy, because, employees, a lot of them really appreciate the flexibility of working from home. I do think, though, employers are looking for other ways to provide flexibility, whether it's like mental health days or other sorts of, different benefits that are sort of new and different. But work from home is becoming a little more rare than we saw before.
Okay, so we've talked about the job search. We've talked about various trends. We've talked about what we're seeing in 2023. Now, how do we get job seekers to negotiate the best offer that they can get?
Ooh, also very important. So I think the first thing as a job seeker is to do your homework. We are so lucky in today's day and age that there are websites like Glassdoor and LinkedIn that have a lot of salary data. So you can look on Glassdoor, for example, and you can search for a particular company, say FedEx, for example, and you can search by job title and you can get a pretty good idea of what they're paying. The other thing is when you go through the interview process, a recruiter will very often ask you in the very first interview, how much do you make or how much do you want to make? And it is much more acceptable today to turn around and say, wow, that's a great question. Would you be willing to share your range with me? And very often the employer, that recruiter, will tell you roughly what they are looking to pay. And you can say, yes, I think we're in the same ballpark without really truly disclosing your numbers. So if you're moving from one industry to another, sometimes you can even double your salary doing this because maybe this different industry pays much more money. So I think that is really the first start is don't, show your cards right away, and instead ask questions and have done your research in advance.
What about with you specifically, Angela? What are your clients' biggest struggles that you're hearing?
The biggest struggle, I think, is really the way job searching feels now. In the past, it felt more personal versus now you're often applying sort of into a black hole. You often don't hear back, or you may interview for a company 10, 11 times and then not hear even a rejection. So the entire process feels harder, I think, than in the past. And really, that is the part that the person has to overcome. I often recommend that people kind of keep a spreadsheet of sort of where they have applied and what's going on so they can kind of keep track and set goals for themselves. How many jobs are they applying to, every week or every month so they can really see. And again, it really comes down to just, it doesn't feel great. So seeking out a resource, a friend who's also job searching, they're going to have the same struggle and they will really be able to empathize with you.
Angela, let's flip the coin a little bit. What advice would you give hiring managers to land the best talent that's out there?
That is such a good question. So often hiring managers, especially I would say at well-known companies, really take for granted the experience that the person interviewing has. So if you are really interested to land the best talent, it's get back to people when you tell them you will. It is be prompt. It's be transparent. If you've decided to put a job on hold, let the person know. And I think truly, if you want the biggest number of applicants to pick from, make the job remote. Again, so many people want work from home, and there are less work from home jobs available now than there have been in the past.
Angela, this has been so informative to so many of our viewers out there. Any lasting comments before we let you go?
No, I would just say, really get started now. This is the perfect time. Employers really are hiring. Don't buy into the hype that everyone is being laid off because they're not. Get going and expect it to take, 2 or 3 months and just kind of prepare yourself for that.
All right. She is the founder of Copeland Coaching. She knows the insight, the market trends, and has great advice if you're looking for a new career and a new job search. Angela Copeland, we always appreciate the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning and happy Friday. Let me show you that First Alert weekend forecast because it includes a chance for rain. We have a 60% chance on Saturday. It does look like a rainy day, and then maybe even a few showers early Sunday, but it looks mainly dry on Sunday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday, but as that front moves through here, it will bring highs back down to the lower 50s on Sunday. Obviously not a very strong front though, since temperatures aren't going to drop too much. Let's look at timing. So this morning we'll have sunshine and dry, but by 4 o'clock we'll have clouds moving in. You you could see a stray shower anytime tonight. If anything, it would be a few sprinkles or some patchy drizzle. But by tomorrow morning, we start to see some heavy rain setting up over towards Dyersburg and into Tipton and Lauderdale County, a few showers in Memphis and DeSoto County. And you'll just have scattered showers all day. So you will see some breaks in the rain. However, with this type of rain, it's hard to plan around it. If I were you, I'd just plan something to do indoors on Saturday. This is 3 o'clock. Again, still some spotty showers around and across the entire area. And we'll keep that around through late Saturday night. This is 7 o'clock. Now, if we did get some heavy rain in any parts of the area, it'd probably be over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. As that front stalls out, it will stick around in those areas, as I mentioned, and there could be some showers in northeast Mississippi through Sunday morning. Right now, though, we have full sunshine. This is what it looks like in Midtown Memphis. But later today, I told you, though, we'll get some clouds rolling in. But even with clouds, we're still going to have temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. At your lunch hour today, around noon for most of us, 50 degrees, 56 at 3 o'clock. So over the next 12 hours, you do get a little spike in temperatures, and then we'll be down to the upper 40s by 7 o'clock tonight if you have any Friday night plans. 56 degrees is the high today, and then 46 degrees is the low temperature tonight. Since we have that chance for rain in the forecast tonight and over the weekend, I highly recommend you get our First Alert weather app. It's free. Search for WMC or Action News 5 in the App Store to download it. And you can use the radar on there to zoom into street level. Plus, we post video updates. And in the updates, we have been talking about the timing for rain this weekend if you want to keep up to date. 50s today. I showed you the 50s over the weekend, too. And we don't really see temperatures dropping down considerably until maybe the end of next week. 56 degrees on Monday with sunshine. We have another chance for rain on Tuesday. A few showers will be possible that day. And then Wednesday we dry out again before our next front arrives on Thursday. And that will bring some scattered showers and thunderstorms. But at this point, I don't have any severe weather in the forecast for the next week.
Okay, I want to tell you about some breaking news that we just learned about here. I've split the screen. This is actionnews5.com. Perhaps you got a push alert if you have downloaded our app. You just got a push alert just a few minutes ago. Suspect identified in the murder of the University of Memphis student that was found dead in Arlington. You could see a picture of him there. So a suspect is charged in the murder of a University of Memphis student found dead in Arlington back last month. Memphis police arrested this man. This is 20-year-old Vincent Patterson for allegedly killing 25-year-old Barshay Wilson. Patterson's charged with first-degree murder and perpetration of a robbery, especially aggravated robbery, tampering with evidence. You'll recall that the 25-year-old reported missing there December 9th. Missing persons report stated that he went to a party at an apartment complex in southwest Memphis. So this is an ongoing investigation, but Memphis Police Department did put this out. Wilson's friend told police that he arrived at her apartment complex 8:35 in the evening, stayed for about 15 minutes before receiving a phone call. Walking outside, his friend stated that she looked outside shortly afterward and then couldn't find Wilson. His car was still parked outside. He was supposed to graduate from nursing school, but he never showed up for the ceremony. So again, this is a breaking news situation where Memphis police have made an arrest of the murder of a University of Memphis student, and the arrest is Vincent Patterson that you see here, 20 years old. He is charged with first-degree murder. Iconic Memphis music producer Sam Phillips would have celebrated his 100th birthday yesterday on January 5th. To commemorate his centennial, Stax Museum and Sam Phillips Recording are partnering to continue his legacy. Stax is sharing a vintage Stax Spectrasonics recording console with Sam Phillips Recording after the two studios spent decades changing the course of music forever. The console was auctioned off back in 1977. It found its way to Louisiana, but it is now back here in the Bluff City. Memphis music veteran Scott Bomar fully restored the console so it can continue making hits.
It just sounds like a record. It sounds like a Memphis record. It has a very familiar sound to it. So for this console that, you know, Isaac Hayes, the Bar-Kays, Albert King, all recorded on, for that to be back in Memphis and be making records again here at Sam Phillips Recording, I think it's just very special to have this console in this room.
Very special indeed. And with all the rich history between the two labels, Jerry Phillips says he's excited to have both seasoned artists and newcomers record on the new old console. All right, we've been talking a lot about New Year's resolutions throughout the week here, and so many people focus in on finances and they focus in on diet and exercise. And a lot of us want to get to 10,000 steps every day, right? That's a good place to start when it comes to exercise resolutions. Well, health researchers say, yes, that's a good start, but they say it's not only the quantity of steps, but the quality. I'll explain here in my Best Life report. Watch this. 10,000 steps, just about 5 miles. It's a threshold that researchers say lowers the risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and dementia. A new study shows those who move at a faster pace, about 80 to 100 steps a minute, have more health benefits. In 2 recent papers, the researchers followed 78,000 people in the UK and found brisk walkers had a 35% lower risk of dying, a 30% lower risk of dementia, and a 25% lower risk of heart disease or cancer, suggesting the pace may be the key.
A slightly brisker pace, maybe even to the point where, you feel it, you're breathing a little bit heavier, might be better for you.
Yale researcher and author Perry Wilson was not involved in this new study, but he says there are important implications. First, he advises his patients to get up and get moving as much as they can.
I don't want people to be discouraged looking at 10,000 and saying, oh my gosh, if I can't hit that, I shouldn't even try. Because really the data suggests that any movement, any getting up and moving around is going to reduce your risk in the long term.
Dr. Wilson also suggests people try to get their steps in clusters. Instead of a slow walk around the office throughout the day, build in time to take a 15 or 30-minute walk at lunch. Science says your heart and your head will thank you for it. So Dr. Wilson recommends using social media to track those steps and those of your family and friends. Sometimes a little friendly competition can go a long way, can be an incentive. Also, the doctor says for those of us who want to know if there are additional benefits for going over the 10,000 step mark, there's no published studies due to the small number of people that consistently go over 10,000 steps each and every day. The call's going out for generous Memphians to save the day. Memphis Athletic Ministries, many of you have heard about it. It is a faith-based nonprofit that helps 2,000 kids and their families each and every year, needs help of their own. The cold weather really did a number on Memphis Athletic Ministries, the Grizzly Center there. We have Action News 5's Joyce Peterson giving us a look inside, including all the damage.
In the heart of South Memphis, a heartbreaking sound.
This is going to be a long-term project. As you can see behind me, they're currently ripping up the floor by hand, plank by plank. They're tearing up the hardwood floor.
Jonathan Torres, president and CEO of Memphis Athletic Ministries, devastated their facility on Ball Road, the Grizzly Center, flooded after pipes burst during the recent cold snap.
And the big thing that they're looking at is probably close to $1 million in damages between the hardwood floor and all of the other the assets that have gotten destroyed. We're looking close to $1 million.
At Memphis Athletic Ministries, we're inspiring young people across the community to grow and lead through Christ-centered coaching.
The nonprofit usually offers after-school care at the Grizzly Center for 250 children a day. Now, there is no safe place to go for at least 6 months. The gym, classrooms, cafeteria, and restrooms all damaged. MAM leaders looking for a temporary location now.
We have a staff ready. We have programs ready. We have curriculum ready. Everything is good to go for the spring school semester. We just need a place to be able to bring kids.
After school, in the gym, and in the community, we're teaching kids what it means to win in life.
Memphis Athletic Ministries praying for a miracle, hoping a school, church, or organization can provide space to keep a successful program running while the Grizzly Center gets repaired.
Playing sports, free. After school care, free. Enrichment, free. Field trips, free. And so this is a huge burden on us to have to take this on. So we're really hopeful that the community can step in and support.
Okay, that was Joyce Peterson reporting there. In addition to finding a temporary home for the after-school program, Memphis Athletic Ministries needs financial support. It's very easy to give, mamsports.org. You could go right there. That's mamsports.org. Or if you look for this story that Joyce Peterson did on our website, actionnews5.com, inside that link, you will find a way. There's a link in there to help you discover how to donate to Memphis Athletic Ministries. Okay, top state Mississippi leaders weighed in on Jackson's water crisis. The legislative session began this week. Governor Tate Reeves says the state took action for 90 days to help Jackson with its water crisis. Last year, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Postman expressed surprise over a town hall revelation that the federal administrator didn't know where all the valves are. House Speaker Philip Gunn says he needs to see how funds are already allocated and how it will be spent before the state gets involved. We'll continue to follow the legislative session, let you know what lawmakers decide. And also, Mississippi lawmakers could push back on Governor Tate Reeves' 10 line-item vetoes from the spring. The vetoes challenge many spending efforts, including some to rejuvenate parks and government buildings in Jackson. In the governor's video message, he referenced the section of the state constitution that says that he may veto parts of any appropriation bill, but one senator disagrees. Listen.
The bill that's in question is not an appropriation bill. It's a transfer bill, and so it should not fall under the purview of the governor's ability to line item veto different measures in it, especially the conditions in those bills. The big issue is one of whether the governor has the authority to veto a condition that the legislature has decided they wanted to include in some legislation.
And the clock is ticking because state lawmakers in Mississippi have a short time frame to decide whether they'll take a vote to override those vetoes. Arkansas lawmakers are now heading back to the state capitol next week for the 94th General Assembly in the state of Arkansas. And Governor-elect Sarah Huckabee Sanders mentioned school choice for parents will be high on her priority list. Lawmakers also expected to discuss raising teacher pay. Sanders tapped Jacob Olivia, a senior chancellor at the Florida Department of Education, to serve as secretary of the Arkansas Department of Education. In Tennessee, new look for some license plates. These are plates for Tennesseans with disabilities, and it's going to have a new look and feel like the blue standard plates design that hit the roads last year. There are roughly 190,000 license plate registrations for people with disabilities. Tennesseans with this license plate will share their new blue plates at the time of their vehicle registration renewal in 2023. Did you know that 64% of Americans typically abandon their New Year's resolution within the first month? That doesn't surprise me at all. And you know what's at the top of the list typically? It has to deal with getting in shape, and it also has to deal with your financial shape. You got to get in your financial shape. And so many people just abandon this after that first month. Well, it's time to get back on track when it comes to your finances. And here to help us out is the founder of the Fiscal Femme. We are joined now by Ashley Feinstein Gersley. Thank you for joining us, Ashley. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
No, I appreciate it. So let's talk about the number one tip to getting our budgets back on track. It is, it is February. It's mid-February. Maybe some people have lost track of their New Year's resolutions. How do we get it back on track, Ashley?
My number one tip is to purge expenses that you won't miss or aren't using. And to clean up the finances, look at what you spent so far this year. Are there subscriptions that you aren't using or completely forgot about? Or maybe there are expenses that aren't adding much value or happiness to your life. We want to let go of those expenses first.
Always good advice. I mean, it's like we have to pay off all of our bills from the holiday season, and it's like, we need a way to get back on track. There are a lot of tools out there to make sure that we're spending properly, that our spending is in order. Are there any that you would recommend, Ashley?
Just like you said with the holidays, sometimes we need some time to pay things off. So we want to make our finances flexible. I've partnered with a firm and I recommend them because they offer a transparent way to pay over time on your own schedule on anything from last minute travel expenses, home essentials, electronics, and even car repair without the hidden fees or compound interest that you might find with credit cards.
Good advice there. And, I've heard this before that people like a high credit score. In fact, they find it sexy if your finances are in order. And we saw this in a new survey out that financial stability is sexy. Tell me more.
Yes, if you needed one more reason to stick with your money resolutions, financial stability is sexy. A recent survey from a firm showed that consumers are prioritizing finances in their relationship. And actually the majority, 3 out of 4, say that financial stability is a turn on. So if you are looking for love or looking to rekindle some love, you want to get that budget in order. And a great way to do that is to surround yourself by friends, family, loved ones who will help you and support you in your money goals.
I remember hearing something a few years ago when there was, Match.com and all these online dating apps. They talked about, well, what is your credit score? And I thought that was kind of funny and foolish, but in actuality, there's a lot of truth to that. What is your financial stability? That's interesting how it is. What about any other final advice that we haven't hit on yet?
We want to simplify, simplify, simplify. So the easier it is to keep our finances in order, the easier it is to stay on track. And a great place to start is with our accounts. Do you have extra savings accounts, checking accounts, or have you been meaning to roll over a company 401k? We want to consolidate and simplify. And we can also do that with our budget. So the fewer categories we have, the easier it is to track and maintain. And we can always add details later. And another final tip is to make our spending intentional. Every time we spend money, we have the opportunity to vote for more of the world we want to see and to align our spending with our values. And that might mean switch a recurring expense over to a BIPOC or woman-owned business, or to purchase goods from a company working to be more sustainable. And often when our spending is more intentional, it has the wonderful side effect of actually reducing the amount we spend.
I like that. I like all of that. Now, for more information on where people can go to get more of what we talked about, where can they do that?
Yes, they can learn more about Affirm at affirm.com and can follow along my budgeting tips at The Fiscal Femme.
Okay, Ashley Feinstein Gerstley, the Fiscal Femme founder. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much for having me.
Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I want to show you this. This is the latest cover of the Memphis Magazine January edition there. Look at that pretty color. And vibrant there. The wedding album, Memphis Marriages in Photos. Good stuff there. Let's talk more about what's inside this edition with Chris McCoy, a writer with Memphis Magazine and the Memphis Flyer. Chris, Happy New Year. How you doing?
Happy New Year. I'm doing fine. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you very much. Read the article that you wrote here, this one, about your little trip to the Gulf. You got the best job here doing all these trips all over the place. And wow, the Gulf Coast didn't disappoint, huh?
No, I can't complain. But so a few years ago, back in 2020, before the pandemic, my wife often goes with me on these trips as a photographer, and she has been doing it for years. I've been doing travel writing since, 2006, 2000-ish or so. And so a lot of times she'll go and take pictures. And in early 2020, we were supposed to go to the Gulf Coast for a travel story, and her other job, she couldn't go. She couldn't go to that one because her other job, which is a video and film editor, she had a gig pop up, so she couldn't go. So then the pandemic happens, and we're stuck in the house for 2 years, and we don't get to travel. And the whole time we were like, man, I wish you could have gone on that trip, because right before the pandemic, I wish you could have gone. So the opportunity arose again, and this time the stars aligned, and she was able to go on this trip. And we stayed at the Henderson. We stayed at the Henderson Park Inn in Destin, and it's right next to the Henderson State Park. And Travel and Leisure voted it the most romantic hotel in America, I think back in 2017 or 2018. And so I was like, well, since we're going to do the weddings for our cover story, which made a beautiful cover, let's talk a little bit about how to make a romantic trip between a couple. This seemed like a good, use of our time. So that's what we did. We tried to go and check out a lot of stuff at the beach in Destin and on the Gulf Coast. We tried to figure out if it was romantic or not, if it was a good thing to do with your partner. And in order to do this, we had to figure out what that meant when we said romantic, right? So that's why I called the story A Theory of Romance. We had to figure out what romantic was before we figured out if something was romantic or not. We had to get our definition down. So some of the story is about us trying to figure out, what does romantic mean, really? And the way the story came together is me proposing things and my wife's name is Laura Jean Hawking, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. For Laura Jean for us to do together. And then she would be like, is that romantic or not? And then she would decide, what it was. But I'll tell you, staying at the Henderson at the Park Inn, there's the Henderson Park Inn, which is a small B&B on the beach. And then there is the Henderson Resort, which is a 110-room high rise that's on the same property, but it's set back from the beach. And it also has like a 10,000 square foot spa and stuff, 2 pools, 3 restaurants. It's the full resort experience. So you get to use some of that if you stay in the Henderson. So, we did a couple spa thing there, which we've decided was extremely romantic. When we arrived at the Henderson, they had love spelled out in rose petals on the bed, which we also decided was extremely romantic, and for obvious reasons. But it turned into a really great trip. And the definition of romance that we ended up with, the theory of romance that we ended up with, was it needs to be an activity that allows you to be present with your partner. It allows you to shut out the world and just be there with the person that you love and concentrate on. That's why, for example, miniature golf turned out to be really romantic because we were able to just concentrate on each other and have a good time. So anyways, I think the story ended up being really fun. And, I'm really happy that we did it. And I hope that it helps some folks, go and have a romantic trip and improve their relationships.
I love your explanation about it, Chris. That was spot on, and we don't want to give too much of it away because we want people to pick up the magazine and look through it. And in addition to your writing, Chris, some great pictures that I guess your wife took, Laura took along the way that really kind of makes everything come to life in that article. So nice, and I really enjoyed it. What about the local wedding photographs here? Because we see the cover right here, which is a beautiful cover. Lots of colors, and then the article about various local weddings. Tell me more about this.
Well, we went around to all the wedding photographers that we could find and we could think of who might have some good stuff, and we started from there. We were like, show us some of your best pics, your best images that you think would be good for the magazine, that would be publishable. And then, we worked outwards from there. And it turns out there's a lot of good photographers in this city, which is something that really working for Memphis Magazine has shown me. But, a lot of them, that's what they do, to make ends meet. They go and photograph weddings. So you can have some really great talent, shooting you on the most important day of your life, and it helps out a lot of photographers who are artists in their other lives. But they do fantastic work, and I think they just did a great job sourcing all these photographs and finding the right ones. But I do believe the one thing that story shows is that if you're going to get married in Memphis and you need a photographer, you're in good hands because we got some good folks here.
Absolutely, totally agree here, and again, this is all on the cover of the first issue of the year for Memphis Magazine. There, you can see the wedding album, Memphis Marriages in photos. There, again, the January edition of Memphis Magazine. Before we let you go, Chris, anything else you want to mention?
Hey, thank you for having me, and Happy New Year. We got some good stuff for the magazine coming up in the new year. I mentioned photography, and our February issue focuses on photographers. So, once you've devoured the January issue, that's what you have to look forward to.
Well, I look forward to it. I can't wait to get it in the mail, my January edition. Look forward to each and every time it comes in the mail. Chris McCoy, we appreciate you spending time with us each and every time you do. Thanks for all the hard work. Much success to you in 2023. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Same to you.
Good morning and happy Friday. Let me show you that first alert weekend forecast because it includes a chance for rain. We have a 60% chance on Saturday. It does look like a rainy day, and then maybe even a few showers early Sunday, but it looks mainly dry on Sunday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday, but as that front moves through here, it will bring highs back down to the lower 50s on Sunday. Obviously not a very strong front though, since temperatures aren't going to drop too much. Let's look at timing. So this morning we'll have sunshine and dry, but by 4 o'clock we'll have clouds moving in. You could see a stray shower anytime tonight. If anything, it would be a few sprinkles or some patchy drizzle. But by tomorrow morning, we start to see some heavy rain setting up over towards Dyersburg and into Tipton and Lauderdale County, a few showers in Memphis and DeSoto County. And you'll just have scattered showers all day. So you will see some breaks in the rain. However, with this type of rain, it's hard to plan around it. If I were you, I'd just plan something to do indoors on Saturday. This is 3 o'clock. Again, still some spotty showers around and across the entire area. And we'll keep that around through late Saturday night. This is 7 o'clock. Now, if we did get some heavy rain in any parts of the area, it'd probably be over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. As that front stalls out, it will stick around in those areas, as I mentioned, and there could be some showers in northeast Mississippi through Sunday morning. Right now, though, we have full sunshine. This is what it looks like in Midtown Memphis. But later today, I told you, though, we'll get some clouds rolling in. But even with clouds, we're still going to have temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. At your lunch hour today, around noon for most of us, 50 degrees, 56 at 3 o'clock. So over the next 12 hours, you do get a little spike in temperatures, and then we'll be down to the upper 40s by 7 o'clock tonight if you have any Friday night plans. 56 degrees is the high today, and then 46 degrees is the low temperature tonight. Since we have that chance for rain in the forecast tonight and over the weekend, I highly recommend you get our First Alert weather app. It's free. Search for WMC or Action News 5 in the App Store to download it. And you can use the radar on there to zoom into street level. Plus, we post video updates. And in the updates, we have been talking about the timing for rain this weekend if you want to keep up to date. 50s today. I showed you the 50s over the weekend, too. And we don't really see temperatures dropping down considerably until maybe the end of next week. 56 degrees on Monday with sunshine. We have another chance for rain on Tuesday. These showers will be possible that day. And then Wednesday we dry out again before our next front arrives on Thursday. And that will bring some scattered showers and thunderstorms. But at this point, I don't have any severe weather in the forecast for the next week.
Another superstar that's in our space, our orbit, and that's Talisa Franklin. She's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Happy New Year to my friend Talisa. How are you?
I am wonderful. Happy New Year to you and everybody that's watching us on this morning.
So tell me how the New Year's been for you right now, Talisa. Pretty good?
Yes, amazing. You know, I have found it to be true. Many didn't make it, but we were one of the ones that did. And so we made it to 2023, and I'm just excited about it. So I have no complaints. All I know that I'm excited to be on this side of the ground.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I see that you are not wasting time when it comes to 2023, Talisa. You got things cooking already, and I know one of the big resolutions out there, you and I both know, finances, getting out of debt, making sure your money will help you in 2023. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So, you know, I am a believer. You know, many people call me, maybe I'm very frugal, I'm very cheap. They say, but I just understand that money, as my grandma would say, didn't grow on trees, right? It may be made out of trees, but it didn't grow on trees. So you have to be very wise with your finances. And so I was super excited about Pleasant Green Church reaching out to me and say, Talisa, we really want to do something to be a blessing to this community of the North Memphis community and our church. And I was like, Pastor Phillips, yes, I'm excited to come. So I am going to be facilitating for this amazing church, Pleasant Green Church in Memphis, of faith and finances. Because truly in this thing of life, you got to have faith with your finances and knowing when to buy, when not to buy, what to do, how to do it, and just know where you are financially. And so I'm excited to do a two-time every Saturday, the last 2 Saturdays of January, a free workshop. It's not going to cost people anything, Andrew. They can come. They got to register, though. Why? Because I even have a takeaway that I need people to use it to make sure they are accountable in this season so they can see how their finances and their faith has went up in 2023. And so we want everybody to go ahead and register at the pleasantgreenchurchmemphis.org. It is absolutely free. Yeah, you get two workshops for absolutely free to help you better your finances. But we need you to register so I'll know how many accountability books that I need to bring for them. And it's no fee. When I say no fee at all, for people to come out and get the knowledge they need, get the information. You know, I'm very unapologetic. I grew up in a home that we were truly the underprivileged and underserved. And so there was people in my life that pulled me to a side and helped me with my finances, and even helped me how to shift my faith in God with a different level that I never imagined I could be with God at this point in my life. And so I want to share some of those best practices, and then some of my learned best practices, and some of my best practices I have learned to make sure that people understand how to exercise your faith and your finances together. Yes.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. We can all, even if you think that you have a good grasp of finances, it's always good to hear other people's experiences, their successes, learn from their failures. Just try to improve yourself. Self-improvement, right? That's what we all want in 2023.
Yes. You know, many people made new resolutions to lose weight, to do this. Can you make the resolution of life that you're going to get your finances in order? Because we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we do know who holds tomorrow, right? But it's important that we get that information that we need so that we can get our finances where God wants them to be.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. That's a great event that's coming up. I also want to ask you about your upcoming show. It sounds like you got some interesting guests.
Yes, you know, 2023, we'll have a new Memphis mayor. And I was like, okay, Talisa, how do you start off this year? You started off with asking all of these candidates, because, you know, we got a plethora of candidates that is running for Memphis mayor. And so I got a few of them that I pulled out, and there will be more that we're talking. I got some really great questions that I'm asking them, the hard questions, because we need to make sure that we pick the mayor that can continue just like our past, our mayor, current mayor, I love him, Mayor Jim Strickland. We need somebody that can pick up that torch and keep us moving forward in Memphis. We need somebody that's for the people in Memphis. And so I had so many people, mayoral candidates this week, that's going to share why they should be the next Memphis mayor. And hey, we just going to ask the questions and let the people decide for themselves.
And so that is something that's happening the 2nd through the 6th. So that is this week.
This week, yeah. This week we had, like yesterday, we had Van Turner. Today we have Paul Young. So we have different ones every single day for 45 minutes to an hour conversation. I'm hitting them with the questions because y'all know I love to talk, right? And I really want to make sure these people have the community in mind when you come down to Memphis. And so we have all of these candidates that's sharing, and we got another one coming up with some of the other candidates that is running too, because we really want to hear for real what their heart is. Why do they really want to be Memphis mayor? And I think in this season, as we're going into election seasons, we got to start voting for people just because we like them. We need to vote for them to make sure they are the change agents that we want to see right here in our city. We got to make these people accountable. I mean, accountable on all ways. They got to be accountable to help us get where we know that we're supposed to be. We're moving Memphis forward.
Absolutely. The community, the culture, the conversation, WAVN, the trends. Talisa Franklin, the one and only. Happy New Year to my friend. We love you so much. And good luck and much success to you and all your staff in 2023.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay, we've been talking about a newly proposed bill drafted by Memphis State Senator London Lamar would require the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation to test rape kits within 30 days of receiving them. Senator Lamar says the idea of this bill is to get victims the results back in a timely manner so offenders don't walk free to offend again. Stephanie Douglas explains.
Just months after the brutal murder of Eliza Fletcher shined new light on the issue lawmakers are working to address Tennessee's lengthy backlog of untested rape kits. Senate Bill 71, filed by State Senator London Lamar, proposes the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation to test rape kits within 30 days of receiving them.
As a state, we are underpaying the scientists and are failing to recruit and retain quality individuals to test these rape kits because they're not being offered adequate pay.
TBI said in October, the average turnaround time was between 32 and 42 weeks at testing labs. It's the same reason why the rape kit for Alicia Franklin went untested for weeks,
which I think is unacceptable for anybody.
Senator Lamar says it's also a reason why the measure calls for urgency and for TBI to submit a plan to eliminate the existing backlog.
Making efforts to solve sexual assault crimes and sex crimes is not a Democrat issue, it's not a Republican issue, it's a people issue. And
because of that, she hopes legislators on both sides will work together during the upcoming 113th Tennessee General Assembly to raise scientists' pay.
And as long as we keep the idea of keeping people safe on the forefront of how we think about this issue, then I think we can come together and create adequate solutions to this issue.
Upcoming legislative session in Tennessee starts next week on Tuesday, January 10th. So the House of Representatives has voted to adjourn after taking 5 more failed Speaker of the House votes yesterday. House members have spent 18 hours on the floor trying to elect a new Speaker. California Republican Kevin McCarthy has failed to get enough votes to become Speaker. A group of 20 Republicans continue to refuse to back him.
So if this takes a little longer and it doesn't meet your deadline, that's okay, because it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And if we finish well, we'll be very successful.
So the House plans to return to the chamber once again today. All right, we're learning more about the details in the case of Katanya Smith, the Memphis woman who police say stabbed and killed her husband on New Year's Day. Witnesses say 36-year-old Katanya Smith got into a fight with her husband, Jermaine, and stabbed him. Officers found Smith inside her apartment where she is accused of saying to police that the red stains on the wall and floor were from tomato sauce. Court documents show domestic violence issues involving the couple date back to 2011. Advocates say leaving a situation before it escalates is key.
And so it's very important for men as well as women, but especially men, if you're in a domestic violence situation where she is the one, saying the vulgar words to you, or she is the one that, every time you try to walk away, she's running behind you, hitting you, or trying to scratch you, sending you texts, threatening you, please take heed.
Williams with the Young Women's Christian Association says more men are seeking help. The YWCA accepts all victims of domestic violence, a message she believes is finally resonating with the Mid-South. And the family of Jermaine Smith says they need financial help to bury their loved one. Also, if you're a victim of domestic violence, please call the 24-hour crisis hotline 901-800-6064. Memphis police have arrested a bank teller accused of stealing thousands of dollars from an 83-year-old customer. This is Aaron Cheney. He's charged with identity fraud, financial exploitation of an elderly, vulnerable person, and theft of property. Investigators say Cheney was employed as a teller at First Horizon Bank. The reported victim told police she noticed her account was used for purchases of more than $28,000. Investigators say video surveillance showed Cheney using the woman's account to make withdrawals at Bank of America and at Walmart. Making a career change over the age of 50. It can be satisfying and terrifying at the same time. The average American worker has 12 jobs throughout their lifetime, and more people over the age of 50 are deciding to take the plunge on new and different careers. Many older adults who plan on settling are now eager to rewrite their own story. Take a look.
Welcome to the French Chef. I'm Julia Child.
Julia Childs became a celebrity chef at 51. Charles Darwin published The Theory of Evolution at 50. The Colonel franchised when he was 62. And Arnold Schwarzenegger stepped away from acting to become governor at age 56. All of these people didn't realize their dream job until they turned 50.
Reality is that most of us will have several careers within a lifetime.
So what are the steps to changing your path after 50? First, perform a self-assessment. What do you want to do in your next career? Identify the requirements and be sure to acquire those skills. Rebrand your image. Learn the industry language and rewrite your resume and online profile to fit it. Be patient and be positive, and realize the ideal job may not be the highest paying financially.
The advantage might be that income is maybe less important than it was when we were younger and raising our children.
According to the ladders, those over 55 had a higher chance of being hired in career fields like business, finance, tech, and healthcare.
I don't think there's anything that 50-plus people need to do differently other than just not apologizing for looking at changing careers later in life.
65% of American workers are actively searching for a new full-time job right now, and factors to include if you are over the age of 50 and looking for a new job or new career, your age, your health, retirement plans, and qualifications. So negotiations continue between two Mid-South healthcare giants this morning, with thousands of Mid-South families caught in the middle. Despite those ongoing negotiations, there's no indication when the next proposal will be presented. 7-month-old Nathan Hart received surgery from Le Bonheur Children's Hospital yesterday. Getting into the operating room was not easy. He was originally denied Tuesday because his parents have Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, not accepted at Le Bonheur right now. But Wednesday night, staff told the family the surgery was back on, with Blue Cross Blue Shield saying they would make sure the surgery would be paid.
The doctor come in again and said, it's not covered, but we're doing the surgery.
Nathan's parents, Melanie and Tyler, that you just saw, say they'd been rerouted to Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, who is now covering the operation. Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin making significant strides in his recovery. Doctors from the University of Cincinnati say his condition has improved. He will remain in intensive care while his lungs continue to heal. As you probably know by now, he suffered cardiac arrest on the field Monday night, received CPR, had to be revived twice during the game against the Bengals. And the doctors say Hamlin can communicate by shaking his head and writing notes. Interesting stuff here from the doctor.
We've talked to him about all the support that's been given from Cincinnati, Buffalo, and really across the country for him and his family during this time. His mom and dad have talked to him about what has happened, and we expect that we'll continue to have ongoing conversations with him. And again, his first question that he wrote when he started to awaken was did we win?
And doctors responded and told Hamlin that he won the game of life. Monday night's proposed Buffalo Bills Cincinnati Bengals game will not be made up. The game was supposed to be was stopped in the first quarter, of course, after what happened to Damar Hamlin. The league made the decision last night, one game left in the regular season. They're still working out details of how the now canceled game will affect playoff seeding in the AFC. Multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, also known as MIS-C, which primarily emerges after COVID, is more common and severe than previously reported, according to a new study published in the JAMA Network Open. The condition causes inflammation in various parts of the child's body, can affect major organs. Though rare, it can be serious, even deadly. Through November, out of millions of COVID cases in children, the CDC logged a total of roughly 9,000 cases and 74 deaths from MIS-C. On Monday, a new emergency center in Arlington. This coming Monday, it'll help cut down on the long drive West Tennesseans will have in order for emergency care. And Cindy Hawkins has more on that.
Minutes can mean the difference between life and death. For people seeking emergency care in Arlington, that's at least 30 minutes to the nearest emergency room. At least until next Monday.
we felt as a board and a town that Baptist had to land here. They had a vision years ago that something like that would go here, something like this, some sort of medical facility would go here that would benefit the region.
The 35,000 square foot Baptist Emergency Department will offer the first freestanding emergency center in West Tennessee, impacting people from Bartlett to Jackson, Tennessee.
Having an emergency medical care in the town of Arlington to serve Shelby County, Fayette County, Tipton County, and travelers from all over the United States of America, guys, go up and down I-40 and I-269. I mean, this facility is going to help so many people.
The ED will provide x-rays, ultrasounds, and CT scans, all vital services for someone in need of emergency care.
I can think of recent events where this could have made the difference. And so to know that we have one of the busiest interstates in the country, driving, half a mile from here. So a lot of interstate wrecks, a lot of times where people need immediate care and can't get it, and that will be able to do it.
Just next door to the ED will be a primary care center opening in February. And later this year, Ortho South, an orthopedic area inside Baptist Emergency Department, will also open its doors to the community.
So if a patient shows up in the ED and needs a primary care provider, we will have that services available, a nice and easy link. Similarly, if you're coming for your primary care visit and you need a higher level of care that requires emergent needs, they can be flipped over right next door to be seen by an emergency physician.
All right, so the Baptist Emergency Department will host a community day tomorrow from 1 until 3 in the afternoon. The day will consist of free CPR training, a view of the new center, medical helicopter, ambulance, and fire truck.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. A lot of you starting off a new year, and one thing that I think is a pretty interesting topic that is very important to talk about is the importance of having a primary care physician. So I want to bring in now nurse practitioner Tondra Armour with Methodist Medical Group. Tondra, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to have you on this morning to talk to you a little bit more about this. I will tell you, I am one of those people that's guilty that over several years, it seemed like when I needed to go to the doctor, I would just go to an urgent care. I would see just one doctor. Next time I'd go, I see a different doctor. And it wasn't until I moved back here to Memphis that I finally established a primary care physician. Can we talk about why it's so important to be able to have that doctor in your corner?
Yes, so having a primary care physician is important because we provide basic health care from mind to body, and we also help to make sure that we take care of we like to offer preventative services. We do quite a few things to care for our patients, but basically it's that general health and making sure we're staying on top of the things that's necessary and trying to capture anything before it even happens or catch it early.
And how important is it to have that doctor that you're seeing consistently? Because, I mean, obviously, they know more about your history. They know what you've been through. Talk about maybe being able to establish that primary care physician and just why it's so important to have a primary care physician working with your health.
Yes. So yes, we recommend that you see a primary care physician at least once a year to get your physical or your annual exam. During that exam, that's when we check for any type of, we do lab work to make sure we're catching any type of illnesses or to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be working. General things like checking your kidney function, liver function. We may do STD checks if you're looking for that and wanting to know your status on that. We can offer x-rays and EKGs in certain places so that we're looking at your heart and your lungs. We do your screening at that particular time. So are you up to date with your mammogram? Are you up to date with your pap smear? Are you up to date with your prostate levels? We can screen for diabetes. So it's very important to know your status and to know your baseline and go from there. And then if you do have chronic diseases such as hypertension or diabetes or high cholesterol, it's very important that you're meeting with your primary care physician or provider, because we also follow that too. We want to make sure that you're taking your medications the way they need to be, make sure the medications are working like they need to be. And if you need to go to a specialist, we can even navigate that and make sure we direct you to the right specialist. And we also interact with the specialist to make sure we know what's going on with the specialist and the specialist know what's going on with us as well.
So important. And like you said, that preventative care, if you don't know there's something going on, then how do you treat that before it gets worse? So obviously so important to be able to get ahead of something before it turns into something even worse, where you're dealing with something even more serious. Can you maybe give some advice for someone that's maybe watching today? They're saying, you know, I don't have a primary care physician. I've just kind of hopped around from urgent cares. Is there any advice that you would give when it comes to maybe trying to find the right one for you?
Yes, so oftentimes we get a lot of our patients by referrals as family members that say, hey, I love my doctor, I love who I go to, and they often tell their friends and family about the provider that they're seeing. You can also check with your insurance company to see what providers are in your network and see who may be close to you or in your area. You can also just call and see who's in that area. Methodist has a website, and you can go on our website and look at all the primary care providers. We have about 60 locations in the Mid-South. And so you can go on the Methodist website and you can look at all the different providers that we have and all the different locations, and you can see what's the best fit for you. But I definitely recommend that you ask your family and friends, who do they have as a provider? Do they trust their provider? Are they able to get appointments with their providers? How does the provider provide excellent care for them? So it's definitely important to have someone who has been to that provider, that knows they're a great provider. But like I said, if you haven't been to a primary care doctor and you're looking for one, go on the website for Methodist and you can check and see where the providers are. You can call your insurance companies and ask about providers that are in your network, because that's important as well.
Absolutely. And you were saying asking family members and friends. That's actually how I ended up at my primary care physician. My dad started seeing this doctor, then my mom, and now me. So, and of course, we've been happy with that. So it's good to be able to talk to your friends and family, because they can let you know what they've experienced going to that doctor. You know, this is a new year, though. We're into 2023. A lot of people making those resolutions, many of those focusing on health, the new year, the new you, and health is usually one of those main focuses for a lot of people. So when is the right time for someone to schedule an appointment with a primary care physician? Is it right now at the beginning of the year?
Yes, get in there and see your primary care doctor. If you haven't seen a doctor at all, haven't had a physical or annual exam, I definitely recommend that you get started with your physical or annual exam to get established with that doctor, so you know your baseline for the year. You know what you're dealing with, and you know what your goal is, or what your goal is, so you know what you need to work towards. So it's very important to get in as soon as possible. If you've already have a doctor that's established and you've already had an annual exam, we recommend you do that once a year, about the same time every year, depending on your insurance. So definitely, if you can get in there ASAP, get in there as soon as you can to get your physical and get your annual exam, so you know your baseline.
All right, Tondra, we talked about a lot of things. Anything you think we missed on that you want to make sure we get out there to the people?
Well, once again, I want to tell people that your primary care doctor offers a lot of different things. We want to make sure that you're up to date on your vaccinations. So this starts in childhood. It doesn't just start in adulthood. So you can get a pediatrician that's considered a primary care doctor for children, and they look at your vaccinations to make sure you're up to date on that. In adulthood, you can transfer or you upgrade from a pediatrician to your primary care doctor. And once again, we're looking at vaccinations. Are you up to date on your flu vaccine? Are you up to date with shingles vaccine, pneumonia vaccine? If you have any chronic conditions, we want to know, are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking your medications like you're supposed to? Are the medications working for you? And if you have any screenings that needs to be done, because primary prevention is most important. So if we can prevent you from becoming a diabetic or prevent you from going into full-blown hypertension, we want to do that. So see us sooner than later, so that we can prevent any type of diseases as much as possible. But if not, just so we can do a general check, just like you go and you get your car checked out, we do the same for our patients. So make an appointment soon and come see us.
All right. Well, Tondra Armour, nurse practitioner for Methodist Medical Group, we appreciate your time. So much information just packed with it. And you have a great one, all right?
Thank you. You have a blessed day, too.
Good morning and happy Friday. Let me show you that first alert weekend forecast, because it includes a chance for rain. We have a 60% chance on Saturday. It does look like a rainy day, and then maybe even a few showers early Sunday, but it looks mainly dry on Sunday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday, but as that front moves through here, it will bring highs back down to the lower 50s on Sunday. Obviously not a very strong front though, since temperatures aren't going to drop too much. Let's look at timing. So this morning we'll have sunshine and dry, but by 4 o'clock we'll have clouds moving in. You you could see a stray shower anytime tonight. If anything, it would be a few sprinkles or some patchy drizzle. But by tomorrow morning, we start to see some heavy rain setting up over towards Dyersburg and into Tipton and Lauderdale County, a few showers in Memphis and DeSoto County. And you'll just have scattered showers all day. So you will see some breaks in the rain. However, with this type of rain, it's hard to plan around it. If I were you, I'd just plan something to do indoors on Saturday. This is 3 o'clock. Again, still some spotty showers around and across the entire area. And we'll keep that around through late Saturday night. This is 7 o'clock. Now, if we did get some heavy rain in any parts of the area, it'd probably be over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. As that front stalls out, it will stick around in those areas, as I mentioned, and there could be some showers in northeast Mississippi through Sunday morning. Right now, though, we have full sunshine. This is what it looks like in Midtown Memphis. But later today, I told you, though, we'll get some clouds rolling in. But even with clouds, we're still going to have temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. At your lunch hour today, around noon for most of us, 50 degrees, 56 at 3 o'clock. So over the next 12 hours, you do get a little spike in temperatures, and then we'll be down to the upper 40s by 7 o'clock tonight if you have any Friday night plans. 56 degrees is the high today, and then 46 degrees is the low temperature tonight. Since we have that chance for rain in the forecast tonight and over the weekend, I highly recommend you get our First Alert weather app. It's free. Search for WMC or Action News 5 in the App Store to download it. And you can use the radar on there to zoom into street level. Plus, we post video updates. And in the updates, we have been talking about the timing for rain this weekend if you want to keep up to date. 50s today. I showed you the 50s over the weekend, too. And we don't really see temperatures dropping down considerably until maybe the end of next week. 56 degrees on Monday with sunshine. We have another chance for rain on Tuesday. A few showers will be possible that day. And then Wednesday we dry out again before our next front arrives on Thursday. And that will bring some scattered showers and thunderstorms. But at this point, I don't have any severe weather in the forecast for the next week.
Have you seen this cover yet? This is the latest cover from La Prensa Latina, the Memphis area's largest bilingual newspaper. There it is, MLK Day. The time is always right to do what is right. It is on newsstands right now. I'm joined by the editor of La Prensa Latina, Vivian Fernandez de Adamson. Happy Friday, Vivian. How are you?
Hi, Andrew. Happy Friday. How are you?
Doing well, thank you very much. So there's an article about MLK and the National Civil Rights Museum. Tell me about it.
Yes, absolutely. They're going to celebrate MLK on Monday, January 16th. So they're going to have free admission thanks to FedEx, who is one of the sponsors. And it's going to be an extended schedule from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. So people can go, and check the exhibits, and also, they can have community activities, other activities for children. There's going to be live entertainment, music. So it's going to be a fun day for the whole family, and there's going to be education activities as well. So it's going to be really nice for everybody to learn more, a little bit more about Dr. Martin Luther King.
Okay, sounds like a great event for sure. Something else that's in this new edition of La Prensa Latina has to deal with Pope Benedict and his funeral that happened this week. Tell me more about that.
Yes, I mean, as we all know, he passed away last Saturday. So, they had like 3 days, well, actually almost 4 days, for the funeral at the Vatican. And, I would say more than 200,000 people went to the Vatican City, just for this, just to say goodbye, farewell to the Pope.
Okay, Vivian, and there's another story with regards to migration and the Cuban embassy. Tell me more about this.
Yes, this is another situation that has been really difficult for immigration here in the U.S. We all know that there's a lot of immigrants coming to the country from Cuba and also from Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela, Mexico, and other countries. So for Cuba, this is very special because, the embassy was closed for so long, and now finally they reopened this week. for visas and other documents that, some of the people might need, some of Cubans that would like to come to this country because they have family here too. So it's very important, not only for Cuba, but also for this country as well, because, it's kind of, controlling a little bit more the situation, the immigration situation that they have here in the country.
Okay, these are just some of the stories that you can find on La Prensa Latina there at laprensalatina.com. Yes. It's on newsstands right now. Vivian, anything else before we let you go?
Yes, please do not forget that this is the weekend where we celebrate Elvis's birthday. And actually, right now, you can't see it right there because of my background that I have, but I'm here at Graceland right now. I'm going to see the exhibit, the new exhibit that they have, which is Making Elvis. This is about the movie that was so successful last year. So, I'm just excited to see this exhibit and I invite everybody to come and see it as well. It looks very interesting, and, you can learn more about not only how they made the movie, but also more about Elvis Presley as well.
That sounds great. I love the movie. I'm sure you did as well, and looking forward to that. And in the words of Elvis, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Vivian.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. As families gather for the holidays, it's an ideal time to talk about how best to care for your loved ones and how to make their home comfortable and safe for years to come. It's an interesting topic, especially during this holiday season. Let's bring in two people who know it well, home renovation expert Ty Pennington and AARP's family and caregiving expert Amy Goyer. They're joining us to talk about the top home improvement ideas for older Americans and how to assess your loved one's need this holiday season. Good morning. How are you two?
Doing great. Thanks for having us. Nice to be here.
Appreciate you being here. So let's talk about how you begin this conversation, because it can be kind of tough at any time of year, especially during the holiday season. Amy, we'll begin with you.
Yes, I always say it's important to talk early and often because you want to talk about things when you're not in the middle of a crisis. Nobody can make decisions when you're in that. And also because your loved one's wishes may change over time. That's why it's important to revisit it often. What you talked about the holidays. The holidays might be a really good time to observe what's going on in your loved one's life. Are they safe in the home? What are their needs? What do they need some support with? And maybe have that conversation, or at least let's say you're talking about your aging parent, maybe you're going to have that conversation with your siblings who are together for the holidays. As you do this, think about, if you want to have that conversation, who needs to be a part of that conversation? My grandmother my uncle was the person who she listened to on certain things, and so he always needed to be a part of that conversation. Maybe it's the lawyer or the doctor or somebody that, they feel comfortable with. And really talk to them about what the options are. What are the solutions? If we want you to stop driving, here's what how you're going to get around. If we think that you're having trouble with the stairs, here's what we're going to propose on how we're going to adjust that. We're going to get a stair lift, or we're going to move your bedroom down to the first floor. So have some really practical and solid solutions for them. And then, the other thing is to make sure that you approach this in a mode of love and concern. We're all in this together. Yeah. We all have the same goal. We want our loved ones to be as independent as possible for as long as possible. And, you're not here to tell them what to do. Use I statements. Don't say, you shouldn't be doing this. Ty's experienced this with his mom. Well, yeah, parents don't really like their offspring to tell them what they should be doing. So I think having the conversation was like, we've noticed that, you're struggling with this. If we did this, would it make things a lot easier? And I think in the long run, your loved ones aren't going to ask for it, but they know they need it as well.
So Ty, you're well known to the HDTV audience. You have a very popular program on there. What's your best way, since you've been a part of this in your own personal life, what's the best way to assess or prioritize a loved one's need in this kind of situation?
Well, I think you have to do exactly what you said. You have to prioritize, right? And so I think most of the time it's pretty obvious which ones are sort of the most critical. I think you run into the bathroom situation, which is like, look, is the door wide enough to even get into to have mobility, especially if they're already starting to use a cane or a wheelchair? Does that have accessibility? Some things are simple as like, does it have safety bars so that they can hold on to something when they're sitting down on the toilet, or even a riser pad on the toilet to make life getting up or sitting down so much easier. And then it's just transition of getting in the home, right? So if you've got to go upstairs, that just becomes a real, it's sort of a nightmare because your fear is they're going to fall. And that could happen whether it's a slippery tile, it could be a loose rug. So it's those kind of things, but it can all come down to lighting. It can also come down to whether or not they have smart technology so it can help them sort of control the environment in their home. But in my mom's case too, sometimes it's a respiratory issue. So you have to focus more on the quality of the air they're breathing and putting in something like a HEPA filter. So it's really about seeing where they are sort of in their journey of aging with the house that they're in and prioritizing like what can we spend with the budget that we have now, and then just sort of gradually adapt that home to get better with age the same way they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, Ty. I want to follow up with that and open this next question to both of you. You mentioned that, with a budget, especially with inflation being so sky high, renovations can be very daunting. Let's talk about simple improvements to make a home safer for the family and aging loved ones. Ty, let's begin with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, you think about is like, how can we make accessibility just to get in the house easier, right? I think a ramp is pretty affordable thing you can do, whether you're doing it out of wood or there's aluminum. There's also just actually doing landscaping and pavers that go right up to your door. Sometimes that's the easiest way. But I would say accessibility, sometimes just letting them have the independence to be able to do their own laundry so that they don't feel like they're just being taken care of and being, looked after all the time. Maybe moving the washer and dryer to a location that's accessible to them so that it's not up or downstairs. But yeah, like going as big as putting in an elevator, that's a lot of money. That's something that, you really want to sort of put to the back burner. If at all possible, they can still move around in a ramp situation. I think that's going to save you a lot of money. However, you got to remember what you spend on this house that is your own family's house will be passed down to the next generation that's aging, compared to what does it cost to house a family member in another location in a home. And so that's what you have to weigh. Like, what is it going to cost you a year to do that compared to the renovating of a home that's going to be in your family as everybody starts to age?
And, there are sometimes some supports to help pay for some of this. My dad was a veteran. The VA provided ramps for us, and they were these kind of rubber things that fit together like Legos, and they were threshold ramps, but they were vital for us. And the VA actually provided a lot of other supports, including a small grant to help with a bathroom remodel. There may be some supports through the Area Agency on Aging, some local organizations that will help provide ramps or build ramps. So make sure that you reach out and see if there's some supports available in your community.
Yeah, and I think during the holidays, the best thing is just observe, see where they're struggling. If they want to be part of the kitchen experience, like lower countertops, lower table, have them a place to sit where they can cut vegetables. So I think the holidays is a good time to sort of assess.
You guys are giving some great advice for our viewers that are tuning in right now. Where can people go for more information? Because you guys have hit on all kinds of great topics.
Well, visit aarp.org/caregiving, and there you're going to find all of our supports, our tips and our tools, and I have a column there. We have lots of things to talk about care at home and how to make the home safe and make it usable for caregiving as we age. So be sure to visit us there.
Okay, Ty, anything from your perspective?
I would just say keep an eye on your loved ones. I mean, it's interesting how they childproof and made everything safe when we were younger, and now we're doing it for them as they're older. It's love, it never ends.
Really appreciate the conversation this morning. A lot of useful ideas, a lot of useful tips. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, I want to split the screen here and show you an update on Damar Hamlin. He's the Buffalo Bills safety that was injured on Monday Night Football against the Bengals. This is a new update that happened just a short time ago here, about 30 minutes ago. It says, per the physicians at the hospital where he is in Cincinnati, Damar's breathing tube was removed overnight. He continues to progress remarkably in his recovery. His neurologic function remains intact and has been able to talk with his family and care team. Great news, great update there. He continues to make a recovery, and as we've been talking about it, that game is not going to be rescheduled. It'll be canceled, but the good news is Damar Hamlin doing really well after the cardiac arrest on the field Monday night. Now, we talked a little bit earlier this week with a doctor, a cardiologist, about what exactly happened there, what could be perhaps some of the reasons why he had a cardiac arrest, had to be revived twice. And this cardiologist is actually a professor at UT Health Science Center, and he also is part of the new Methodist group there at UT Health Science Center. Take a listen. Great conversation. Well, fans, family, and fellow players are coming together to support injured Buffalo Bill Damar Hamlin. He remains in critical condition this morning after collapsing on the field during Monday Night Football games against the Bengals. Well, Bills fans and Bengal fans, they prayed, held vigils outside the hospital. Hamlin's uncle, Dorian Glenn, spoke about his condition.
He's sustained some damage to his lungs, and they're working to try to remedy that, and they got him on a ventilator to help with the breathing too, just to take some of the strain off his lungs so they can heal and recuperate. So, yeah, it's just a sad situation all the way around.
A sad situation indeed. The Bills say that Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest, had to be revived twice. Now let's take a deep dive into what exactly happened there and speak with someone who's in the know in these medical terms and various terms that we're hearing all about with regards to this story. I'm joined now by Dr. John Jeffries. He's professor of cardiology at UT Health Science Center. He also leads the new Methodist Institute for Cardiovascular Science. Dr. Jeffries, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being here. What is cardiac arrest? A lot of people think it's a heart attack, but that's not necessarily the case. Can you explain it to us in layman's terms?
Sure. So, what happened here is that the heart stopped beating essentially, and that can be from a variety of different reasons. But what we probably saw here was not a classic heart attack, which is more of a blockage in the coronary arteries typically. This was likely more from a rhythm disturbance, which could have a variety of different mechanisms or causes. And I think those still need to be, worked out and disclosed by the healthcare providers there. But the important thing here is that CPR was initiated and a defibrillator was used to resuscitate him successfully, as you heard twice. This was required. And I think that's the big takeaway, is really people understanding the importance of CPR, the awareness of using defibrillators or what are called AEDs, which are available usually in public forums to help save people's lives. And that's really what happened here, is a rapid institution of CPR made a huge difference.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of those things is I saw the play. I was watching the game live, and when I saw the play, it looked like anything, a very routine tackle. Didn't look like anything super severe or super strong or super combative. It was just a routine tackle, and then he went into cardiac arrest. How do you explain that in medical terms of why something so routine had this devastating effect?
Yeah, we'll need more information to fully understand exactly, probably mechanistically, what was going on here. But we do know there are conditions where pressure to the chest wall, it's a condition called commotio cordis, can actually lead to unusual heart rhythms, which can be fatal. And so essentially this is the heart having a pressure applied to it, and which could happen in football or any other sport actually. And it essentially disrupts the normal heart rhythm. So if it's timed perfectly on the way that the heart rhythm tracing is occurring, it can induce a thing called ventricular fibrillation, which is essentially the heart not beating. It's fibrillating or squeezing at a really rapid pace, but means there's no real blood flow going out to the body. And that's where the use of a thing like a defibrillator would be very helpful. And then during that time period between when that fibrillation occurs and when you can apply the defibrillator is when CPR is hugely important and is an essential to a successful resuscitation and restoration of normal circulation. So it's hard to know exactly for sure what happened because we just don't have enough information, but that's absolutely a possibility. There are other types of heart diseases that could lead to something like this. There's a condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy that sometimes we see in athletes. And that's information that can be obtained, through imaging of the heart, like an ultrasound or an echocardiogram. So all of that information will still need to come to us, but this idea of this hit to the chest that can induce a bad heart rhythm has been a known entity for many years. And we do see it more commonly in younger athletes and young males. Interestingly, similar, in the sex predilection here we see in a male, but it's usually around 15 years of age or so. But it can occur in other ages, and it can occur in other sports. So I think the awareness of this is hugely important, and understanding that things do occur in sports that can be unanticipated. As you've heard from many of the NFL players, they're used to seeing joint injuries and orthopedic injuries, but something like cardiac is not as common, but obviously hugely impactful. And what can we do to help when these things do occur to be best prepared? And I think that's where CPR and having availability of defibrillators is hugely important.
Yeah, we've many stories about the need and the necessity to have AEDs in various public areas. I know the church that I attend, we have a couple of AEDs set up in different areas where people congregate, the need for it. I'm curious, though, here is a 24-year-old in top peak physical condition, and he has this cardiac arrest, and I've heard the term that you mentioned, commotio cordis, but I understand it is extremely rare. And forgive me for saying this, but I'm a huge football fan. I've never seen anything like this happen ever, where a game is stopped because someone's heart is stopped on the field during the play. So I'm just curious, I mean, if we're listing some of the reasons why this happened, and again, we don't know because we don't have all the information, but where does that list, start with the most probable sense, and where do we go from there?
Yeah, I think, based on, as you said, we don't have all the information. Based on what we know, this probably was a primary cardiac issue. So when people have an arrest, it can be from different things. It's not just your heart always. Sometimes it could be a lung issue or other things that are more systemic from the pathophysiologic perspective. But based on what we're seeing, the abruptness, the need for a defibrillator would typically indicate this is probably cardiac in origin. And then you start thinking about, as you said, young guy, healthy, obviously very fit person. What are the things that could happen? We do know there could have been underlying circumstances that were there. As I said, maybe a cardiomyopathy or something. Be very atypical for those sorts of things to be there because of the screening processes that these players go through. But they can have very subtle changes sometimes that aren't always detected. So that is a possibility. But I think the more likelihood, based on what we saw on video and knowing that this can occur in young athletes, that the commotio cordis may be the most likely possibility. As I said, to have more information would give us a lot more opportunity to best understand and to tag what the cause was. But this is a hard thing to understand if you think about it. Someone playing football, they don't have a heart monitor on when they're playing typically. So the idea of being able to look at the heart rhythm at the time of the impact and then subsequent to that is not available to us. So the only time we're going to have any heart rhythm data is when they put that defibrillator on and we were actually able to see what the rhythm looked like. So the time from the actual impact until the time of the defibrillator is sort of going to be an unknown from a rhythm perspective. So to say definitively that's exactly what happened, part of this is really going to always be a little bit of an unknown consideration, because we just don't have the data to accurately document exactly what happened. But I think based on, a young, healthy person, it does make it a likely possibility that commotio cordis was what happened here. I'm sure that extensive testing has been done at the University of Cincinnati, excellent healthcare system. I'm sure they're doing everything to best define exactly if there was any underlying cardiovascular pathophysiology that was there prior maybe. And then more importantly, what do we do moving forward to keep him safe, right? So get him through this to the best of their ability, and then how do we protect him long term? And part of that's really understanding about what happened. So that'll be through extensive testing and other things. But once again, let's say it was commotio cordis, let's say it was cardiomyopathy, like a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The sudden death phenomenon is a common pathway for all of those diagnoses. And that's where really coming back to not necessarily knowing exactly what he had, but we know what the end result was. And that was a cardiac arrest, is knowing what we need to do. And that really is back to rapid response. For bystander CPR, unfortunately, occurs in less than half of the cases that occur in the United States. And this is cardiac arrest is a common phenomenon, not in this age group, obviously, but about 350,000 cardiac arrests occur each year. So understanding if that's in a public forum, it's important for people to get involved and to initiate 911, to initiate CPR, to look around for the AED, as you were alluding to at your church. All those things are hugely important, because that's ultimately what was able to gain back circulatory sort of flow in this young man, and able to get him to the hospital where he could get adequate care. So, this is such a bad situation. And I think it really comes back to increasing awareness, is that cardiovascular disease kills more people in the United States than anything else. And what can we do to help mitigate that? How can we improve outcomes? And CPR and defibrillators are absolutely a vehicle to do that.
Let me ask you about markers here, because a lot of people are wondering what kind of preventative steps could have stopped this event before happening. I mean, a lot of people are just wondering, would there have been tests to give, just kind of an alert or something that says, hey, there's an issue here and it needs to be addressed immediately?
It's a great question. I think these players, obviously high school, college, professional athletes go through screenings and physical exams, and so extensive testing is done. So, that's having the sort of pre-existing heart disease comes as a lesser likely possibility here. If it really was commotio cordis, and as I said, that's really a hard thing to diagnose in a retrospective sort of fashion, but based on the information that we have, if that's really what was going on, there really aren't any preventive strategies that can occur. Even people that wear chest protectors, and so this is seen in other sports, as I said, things like soccer and whatnot. People that wear chest protectors, that still doesn't always protect you from a cardiac arrest secondary to commotio cordis. So this was really just a bad timing event, and it is exceedingly rare. If you think about, we're talking about a very exact hit during the cardiac cycle when the heart rhythm is going. It has to be very precise, and it has to be in a certain spot, typically on the chest. So for that to occur is very, very rare. But once again, I don't think there's anything that we could have done preemptively if that were the cause here to avoid this. It's one of those things that it may happen in any situation, and you have to be prepared to deal with the consequence of commotio cordis, right, and that ventricular fibrillation. And that's where learning CPR and having access to defibrillators is very important. And remember, this is a very rare phenomenon. things like heart attacks are very common, right? And we see that very commonly in the Mid-South. And it's going to be the same application, 911, CPR, defibrillator if appropriate, right? And I think those are all of the things that really bring us back to the importance of people just understanding how to react in these situations. Watching it at home, I've seen this in real life, real time at sports events, and it's surreal. It's so unusual, and people are looking around. Someone falls to the ground unexpectedly, and you really don't know what to think initially. It's like, wow, I wonder what's going on. Did he pass out? Did he hurt his leg? Something, and it's almost like time freezes a little bit. And you have to be aware of what's going on and really institute the appropriate measures, because about 90% of people that experience an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, which is what happened here, do not make it. And that is absolutely tragic. And what can we do to make a difference in that situation? So I think there'll always be people looking back at these situations, and appropriately so, to say, is there anything else that we could have done? But I don't think, if this was really commotio cordis, that there was probably anything preemptively that could have been done. It's really about the reaction to what happened. And the teams there really did a great job at stepping onto the field, knowing what was going on and intervening quickly. But I think it just comes back to doing appropriate screenings if you're going to play sports, right? If your family are going to play sports, make sure you go through the right steps to do as much as you can to ensure safety. And then during sports, things happen. And as we said, oftentimes that's more of an orthopedic sort of a thing, or maybe head trauma and whatnot, but cardiac is still a part of the consideration. And making sure that we're prepared to deal with that, I think, has to be an important step for us moving forward as a community.
Sure. So, Dr. Jeffries, one final question. He had to be revived 2 different times on the field there. What does that tell you about the severity of what happened, and why was that the case?
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly about what was going on, without looking at the data. But this rhythm we're talking about, ventricular fibrillation, is a very unstable heart rhythm, and so it can come and go. And you have to remember, they were resuscitating him, and during that time period, there's no real, there's very limited circulation to the body, right, except for what we're accomplishing with CPR. And when you resuscitate someone, the heart starts getting oxygen again, and sometimes it can still be a little bit irritable, right? And that's probably what happened here, is that he was shocked, hopefully returned into a thing called sinus rhythm, but then the heart is still in a very unstable situation. It's very irritated, and for whatever reason, it can flip back into these unstable heart rhythms, something like ventricular fibrillation. And if that happened, remember, that's essentially no blood flow to the body. And so you have to reinstitute the CPR, and then you want to shock again, because that would be an appropriate rhythm to defibrillate. And that's probably what happened, is that had an unusual heart rhythm or a pathologic heart rhythm like ventricular fibrillation, shock, probably got back into some sort of a relatively stable heart rhythm. Heart was still irritable, went back into an unstable heart rhythm, something like a ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation, which required a second defibrillation. But those are the appropriate things to do, and that's exactly what these devices do, is that they help understand what the heart rhythm is, if it's appropriate to shock for that heart rhythm, because remember, we don't want to shock all the time. Some heart rhythms actually don't respond well to being shocked. And then they deliver the shock, and then they'll tell you if the appropriate heart rhythm has been restored, or maybe you need to shock again. And so the team there did a tremendous job, and now it's just a waiting game. We hope that during the resuscitation the perfusion was good, and that hopefully all of his end organ function and all those things are going to be good walking out of this situation. But that's one of those things that time will tell ultimately. But I think, once again, encourage everyone to learn about CPR, The American Heart Association has mechanisms to do that, and please do that, because this could happen anywhere, anytime. Be clear, this is not just something that's unique to the NFL.
Sure. Why don't we end with that, Doctor? Can you give us maybe a place someone could go if they're watching this where they can sign up and learn CPR?
Absolutely. So the American Heart Association has, you can go on the web. It's heart.org/CPR. There are other mechanisms to learn CPR, as you were alluding to. Your church, your community outreach oftentimes will do CPR. But I would just encourage everyone, and if you need help, please reach out to the American Heart Association. They can absolutely facilitate that. It's an easy skill to learn, and it saves lives. It's just that simple. It saves lives, and I hope we can teach not only our adult community, but our young people in the community as well, because they're going to be at these sporting events too, to learn the basics of CPR. Because it really is a game changer, and it saved this young man's life.
No question about it. Dr. John Jeffries, appreciate you, UT Health Science Center, and you lead the new Methodist Institute for Cardiovascular Science. We appreciate the deep dive into this topic about what happened at Monday Night Football and ways to really get the word out and help others with AEDs and CPR training. Thanks very much. All right, 2022 is a wrap. That means tax time is right around the corner. But as you prepare your return, the IRS is warning of scams designed to steal your vital tax information. Carice Jackman has more.
Tax season is fast approaching, and experts warn scammers are gearing up to steal your critical personal information.
There are millions of dollars every year that fall victim to these scams, and so it's a really huge problem.
Kimberly Palmer from NerdWallet says oftentimes victims are tricked into giving out their tax information.
And they reach out to taxpayers claiming that they urgently need their personal information, their financial information, because you owe taxes, fees, penalties. But of course, none of that is true.
The IRS says scammers trick people in many ways. Sometimes it comes in the form of a text with bogus links claiming to be from the IRS or other tax services. Another common phishing technique, a fraudulent email that appears to be from the IRS or a program closely linked to it. Remember, the IRS will never contact you through social media, via text, or initiate contact with you via email. The IRS says if you receive an unsolicited text, take a screenshot of it and include the screenshot in an email to phishing@irs.gov. Make sure you tell the IRS the date, time, and time zone you received the message and the phone number that received the text message. Remember, never click on links or open attachments from unsolicited, suspicious, or unexpected text messages.
Anytime anyone reaches out to you saying that they're from the government or from some official organization, just to verify.
Jacob Channel from Lending Tree says if you think you've been conned by scammers, reach out to your bank and the IRS as quickly as possible.
The longer you wait, the harder it'll be to get your money back.
With this watching your wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Okay, Andrew Douglas here at the Action News 5 digital desk. There are 2 articles posted right now on commercialappeal.com, and they talk about 2 very important things and events that have happened over the course of the last week or so ago. One of which focuses on MLGW and the Memphis infrastructure with regards to the winter storm. The other one focuses on TVA and the CEO saying it failed with these rolling blackouts when we had horrible weather over the last week to 10 days. Let's bring in the author of both of these articles, Sam Hardiman with the Commercial Appeal. Sam, Happy New Year to you. Appreciate both of these articles, Sam. They're so relevant right now, and certainly it's, again, I want to make mention that it's available on commercialappeal.com. Did anything surprise you when you were working on both of these stories?
What surprised me, Andrew, is the first story that we're talking about today, which is about the status of MLGW's infrastructure. This is the 3rd year in a row the Commercial Appeal has published a similar story, which is just showing that in these past 3 years, as Memphis has struggled with bad weather, infrastructure has been unreliable. And that sort of history repeating itself over and over, as I have a friend here seeking attention, is very surprising in a way, because you don't expect things to happen just like that.
Your friend's cute, I gotta say, Sam. I appreciate your friend there. But you know what's interesting about that MLGW article is I got the impression when reading it, Sam, is that I felt like they kept talking, hey, there's improvements, there's help on the way, essentially. But I think people in Memphis or MLGW customers might be skeptical about that until they see a severe weather event or a Mother Nature event come and go with little to no interruption in service, right?
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, right? The mayor and MLG&W CEO Doug McGowan are both quoted in the piece talking about the MLG&W Way Forward plan, which is a $1.2 billion infrastructure package that's supposed to really fix up the electrical grid and the water distribution system. And a significant amount of that money has already been spent, MLG&W says. However, as McGowan notes in the article, and we quote him as saying, he said he would be a fool to forecast that the infrastructure couldn't have issues again in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. And what we're really writing about here and what we're talking about this morning are generational issues. A infrastructure grid, electrical grid, water distribution system does not become aged overnight. It happens over decades. And so right now, Memphis and the sort of frustration that I think a lot of Memphians feel, a lot of MLG&W customers feel, in which their holidays were wholly disrupted in a lot of ways by shoddy infrastructure and an unreliable grid in some ways. That frustration in the short term has been baked into the cake over decades. And so people are right to be skeptical.
I also want to point our viewers to the fact that it is posted. They can read it for themselves on commercialappeal.com. The other article, Sam, that you wrote about was from the TVA, the CEO, talking about the rolling blackouts and taking responsibility, how it failed, that sort of thing. It's interesting because what I found interesting was that these rolling blackouts occurred, like a month after MLGW signed their contract, their 5-year contract. Was it a month? Was it even more than that? I mean, it seemed like
it wasn't. MLGW has not signed anything new. They have stayed on a current contract.
Okay.
And so this is just happening a month after MLG&W, maybe even less than a month, about 3 weeks. After MLG&W, their board voted not to sign a long-term generational contract with TVA and commit to TVA for 40 plus years, most likely. That's the key kind of interesting component there. MLG&W is on an evergreen contract that has a 5-year notice period. So at any point, MLG&W can say in 5 years, we don't want to be a TVA customer anymore. It just auto renews every year at this point.
Yeah, I just found it curious, the timing, because it was almost like settled. At least to me, I thought it was already signed, but it was almost settled that everyone said, okay, here's the deal, we're going with TVA, and then suddenly, for the first time in nearly its 90-year history, they have this blackout or rolling blackouts that they've asked all the utilities that they serve, power to. I just thought that was horrible timing.
It is horrible timing, but imagine if the timing had been this summer. And MLG&W was still having bidders on its power supply. The bidding had not closed. And then MLG&W is rating TVA is very reliable. And then there are blackouts. So I think for TVA, the timing could have been worse. At the same time, because Memphis hasn't signed anything, and it just remains on this evergreen rolling contract, the question is still open. And that's a really sort of essential thing to keep in mind as we go forward. It's not clear whether or not that's going to revive, and what's happened these past couple of weeks is going to revive the debate over whether Memphis should leave. But all of the gating criteria, all the things, which is this Memphis contract that's evergreen and can be, essentially a 5-year notice and it's up. That really puts a lot of pressure on TVA. And that's why the vote going against them in mid-December and Memphis not wanting to sign the generational deal was such a big deal for them. Because if Memphis had signed it and the city council had signed off on it, which was a very unlikely thing, Memphis would be in the same situation that Nashville is in, where Nashville can talk about how grumpy they are with TVA. Nashville leaders can do that. But they signed a 20-year deal, the rolling perpetual agreement with TVA. It would take a generation to get out of it. Memphis is not in the same situation.
That is interesting, and that leaves the door open for, I guess, more debate down the line. Also thought it was interesting that, the CEO said something that they're investigating, paraphrasing now, but investigating what exactly caused this whole diction to make sure that there were rolling blackouts. I guess there's no timetable on when they are supposed to have that situated, right? I mean, they just said, hey, we're looking into it.
Yeah, that's essentially it. And TVA, said it a little more formally last week as well. But no, we don't know yet. I would expect sometime in the first half of the year, we have some analysis of this. And it's a really important question because for all of Tennessee and parts of 6 other states, this is the electric grid. And it's really, worrisome when the election provider has to mandate rolling blackouts. And the electric provider has said it was prepared for such extreme events. And as Jeff Lash has quoted in the story, the preparation didn't work. And so you really need to understand, because these events are going to happen again. It's going to be very cold in Nashville and Memphis and Knoxville all at the same time. It's going to happen. It's maybe rare, but it will happen again. And it's going to be very warm in those places this summer, most likely all at the same time. And so that sort of thing is when your peak electric demand can't be met and your generation falls, which is what happened with TVA, and you're trying to import electricity, you could be in this situation again. So you really do need to study.
It really is interesting, and it's something that is posted on commercialappeal.com. And Sam, before I let you go, I just want to commend you on writing 2 stories that are so relevant to the entire population. It doesn't matter where you live. If you are an MLGW customer, you are very interested in what's happening here. And these questions are something that everybody that has been asking over the last week, 2 weeks, 10 days, what have you, since all this stuff happened. And there's going to be these questions continuing throughout 2023, I would assume. I'll give you the last word here before we let you go.
Well, Andrew, it's great to see you. Happy New Year. And the reason I wanted to talk about these stories today is because the public needs to be talking about infrastructure, not just when it fails. And because, when these events happen, we see an intense spike in interest, and we really care about the electric grid, about the water system, and then everything gets back to function. And then you don't have more serious conversations about it, and the public is less interested. And I think one of the ways for this thing to change is for people to be more aware and more engaged on the issues, and that way their infrastructure, which is what they pay for, all of us pay for every month, is accountable to them.
He is Sam Hardiman with the Commercial Appeal, the City Beat writer. And with Sam, we appreciate all the hard work. Thanks very much. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Zoe says Happy New Year to you.
Let's talk a little bit about meditation and mindfulness. Those are 2 things that, from what we understand, can really help us during very stressful moments, during this stressful time, I guess you can say, unprecedented times that we are living through right now. And joining me now to talk about meditation and mindfulness is Dr. Gail Gazelle. She's an assistant professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School. Dr. Gazelle, thanks again for joining us. We appreciate every time you join us. How are you?
Wonderful. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So let's talk about meditation and mindfulness, because there are so many benefits that maybe people don't realize, especially in this age where we're just trying to lower the temperature, lower that stress that we feel each and every day.
Without a doubt. And when we think about healthcare, really, it's chock full of stress. The stakes are so very high. Certainly before the pandemic, many sick patients, not enough resources necessarily to take care of them, a lot of time pressure, emergencies upon emergencies. And of course, with the pandemic, the temperature, as you say, has really been turned up. And we don't learn a lot in our training as physicians or nurses or technicians or therapists in how to calm ourselves and how to really manage all of the stress that we experience. And for me, that's where I see mindfulness and meditation really having a critically important role.
Right, because physicians and other medical professionals, they know how to take care of others, but a lot of times it's at the expense of their own health. And we can learn a lot from not only how to protect themselves and their mental issues and their mental state, but also that kind of protection can also just talk to all of us, speak to all of us when it comes to just really kind of building that calmness inside, right?
It's so very true. I think when the public hears the word mindfulness, you know, our minds can go to robed and bald-headed monks on a mountainside, can't they? And yet what I think about for mindfulness, particularly in healthcare for both doctors and patients, is really the mastery over our own minds. I mean, let's face it, our minds are very busy places, you know, 10 to 20,000 thoughts a day. And some of those thoughts are great. They're really full of purpose and they help guide us. But when we focus on our own thoughts, whoever we are, we begin to realize that our minds are complicated places. A lot of the thoughts and stories that our minds spin are really actually fake news, and they can drag us down. They can take us to a very negative place, increasing our anxiety, increasing our stress levels. So without a doubt, we can all benefit from learning tools to manage our own busy minds.
So our minds have 10,000 to 20,000 thoughts a day. That's really an extraordinary number and a fact there. How do we bring down that complication and make it really simple for us to make our minds work for us in terms of bringing down the stress level?
Well, what's really important is getting to know our own busy mind, and that's where meditation is so important. When we meditate, we're not banishing thought, but we're sitting quietly and we're just getting to know what it is that's going on in our mind. And what I find is that when I teach meditation to busy doctors and others, they're shocked. They had no idea that their mind was such a busy place. And when we think about that in medical terms, well, we can't treat something, we can't intervene until we diagnose it. So what I mean by that is we have to diagnose our own mind in a friendly way, not in a judgmental way. We don't sit there meditating thinking, what's wrong with me for having all these thoughts? We just notice, look at how busy my mind is, and let me get to know, let me befriend my own mind and get to know what's here. Why? So that I can work with my own mind and not be so much the servant of it, but become actually the one who's the master over it. And that, I think, is really the beauty of what mindfulness can offer all of us.
So we want to get the stress point to be reduced. We also want more calmness in our lives. What about the positivity aspect? How do we become more grateful in our lives?
Well, again, my focus is doctors in healthcare, and the public may not realize just how critical doctors learn to be of ourselves. As you mentioned, we're there to take care of others, so we don't learn to take care of ourselves. Sometimes we're not even on our own to-do list. But as we get to know that pattern of self-criticism, which again is not just the purview for doctors in healthcare, but we can all suffer from that, we begin to realize that perhaps it isn't isn't helping us to be so critical of ourselves, to be so negative, to go down the negativity bias that affects all of us. And that's where I think we can get to know our own patterns. We can recognize when our thoughts are taking us into a negative, unhelpful direction, and we can course correct. Again, that's one of the skills that we get with mindfulness. For myself, I've gotten to the point where I can notice, oh, there goes my silly mind, kind of criticizing me again, looking at all the negatives around me. Do I really have to follow that train, or would it be more helpful for me in terms of what's going on right now to shift my thoughts more in a positive direction? So it's not about, oh, just put on a smiley face and everything will be great. It's about getting to know your own mind and really working with it in the most constructive way that you can.
You know, doctors and all kinds of medical professionals, you know, they really get worn down by all the sickness they see, and especially during the pandemic, it has been tough for that profession. There's no question about it. How do they and other medical professionals build resilience with mindfulness?
Such an important question because, you know, the toll on healthcare workers has always been high. Again, it's a very high stakes profession, and we go into it knowing that and embracing that and wanting to do what we can to help those around us. But what do we do when there's a situation like the pandemic where the stresses are really just, you know, something that's unprecedented for all of those in healthcare? And so we can build resilience, very importantly, by building moments of calm into our day. Even the busiest day, it can be like running a marathon if we don't learn how to pause and actually kind of cool ourselves down and have moments of calm. With mindfulness, we can take those kind of pauses, those mindful pauses. We can notice when we're just running mentally and physically, and remind ourselves that if we're going to get through this marathon of healthcare, that we actually need to kind of take these mental timeouts. One very practical step that I recommend to healthcare providers is that in between patients, we simply pause and take at least one slow, deep breath, maybe even 3. It sounds so incredibly simple, but it can actually help us regulate ourselves and help us give us what we need to run this marathon that we are in healthcare.
So if someone's listening to this interview and they're trying to figure out, okay, I like the idea of meditation, I like the idea of mindfulness and building up that calm and a positive idea of how to approach daily routines, where would you tell them to start?
Well, there are a lot of wonderful apps out there now. Calm, 10% Happier, Headspace, you know, there are a ton of them. I have a free 14-day mindfulness meditation course where in less than 10 minutes a day, I guide individuals in a brief mindfulness topic and then in a meditation. And people can access that on my website, gailgazelle.com. It's a free offering, and that's often a good place for people to get started.
Is there any mindset, you know, we're talking about mindfulness, but is there any mindset when you approach this type of 14-day course or this type of attitude, hey, I need to lower my stress every day, I need to feel better about what I do each and every day. What else can we tell people to really kind of help them through this all?
Well, I think we can tell people that it's normal to experience stress. It's normal. It's part of the human condition, and it's normal to have a busy mind. There's nothing wrong with you, any of your listeners, if you're sitting there thinking, what's wrong with me that my mind is so busy and that I don't know how to quiet it? So I think that's really important, that we don't judge ourselves for being in the human condition and not learning these skills. You know, again, I often feel that if medical training covered some of these skills, that for me as an executive coach for burnt out physicians and physician leaders, I'd be happily out of a job, because these are skills that all of us can learn. So I think if your viewers take nothing else away, it's a sense of hopefulness that we all can become more the master of our own mind rather than, frankly, the servant.
Completely agree with you, Dr. Guzell. You know, one of the benefits, I guess, one of the good things that we can say that's come out of this pandemic is this emphasis, this focus on mental health, and having this idea, having this routine that you say, you know, this 14-day course to really kind of focus in and hone in on ways to bring down the stress level, make sure there's more calmness in your life, make sure there's more positivity, is something that we all need for sure. Anything else you'd like to say before we let you go?
Well, again, just to emphasize that this is more than possible. We don't have to go off to a mountaintop for hours a day. We can build these moments of self-awareness and self-reflection into our days really by paying attention and by pausing and by working with our own busy mind. This is more than possible for all of us in healthcare and all of us as a nation.
Dr. Gail Guzell, thank you. Always appreciate our conversations, and we look forward to future conversations with you. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Are you done with your holiday shopping? If you're like so many Americans, you are still waiting to the last minute to get stuff done. Now, there are so many different ways that scammers are trying to get your information, trying to get your money, because obviously they want to get that cash as quickly as possible, and they have so many devices that they can go after, specifically in your home. We're talking about computers, cell phones, TVs, doorbells, garage door openers, the list goes on. And there is certainly convenience in all of that, but there are some cyber threats out there. Let's talk more about these cyber threats, the risks, and how to protect yourself. We're joined by Nooper Davis, Chief Information Officer for Comcast. Good morning, Ms. Davis. How are you?
Good morning.
So let's talk about what Comcast recently released, a new cyber health report. What are some of the key findings here? Because there are so many people online right now trying to get some last minute gifts, among other things. What did this report reveal?
You know, really interesting data. First, since our last report 2 years ago, we found that there are now 25% more connected devices in our customers' homes. Also, the threats keep increasing. So since the 5 years that we released our Xfinity X5 Advanced Security product, it has blocked 10 billion threats in our customers' homes. And then the other really interesting piece of data was that the average number of attacks that we block per home, unique attacks, is 23 per month, 23 attacks per month. And the real number is probably 2 to 3 times as much.
Let me ask you this, because call me old school. I don't like any kind of Echo or listening device, Alexa, that sort of thing. But everyone seems to be purchasing these new smart devices in our homes. What does the report say about cyber threats when it comes to these or any other new devices, smartphone devices, or smart devices, I should say, in our home?
Yeah, you know what we found is that laptops, computers, tablets, video cameras, they end up being the most vulnerable to threats. But also things like what you just said, doorbells, door sensors, you know, the small devices without screens that we kind of forget are there are also vulnerable. And that is why it's really important to have something like the advanced security product, because it just protects everything that is connected to the Wi-Fi in your home, and even things that you may not be so aware of.
So let's talk about some of the current cyber attacks that you're seeing, and most importantly, Nooper, how can people protect themselves?
Well, the 3 types of attacks we see are infected devices in your home trying to reach what are called bad IP reputation sites. So, you know, sites with malware. And then the other is unsafe browsing. So, so you go to a website and unknown to you, there's malware on it. The third is something called a denial of service, where your gateway or your modem will become part of a botnet, and then the botnet is used to attack. So that's the third thing that we try to protect against. Now, what can you do? Well, there are 5 things. 1 is use strong passwords. 2, use multi-factor authentication wherever you can. 3, know what is in your home that is connecting to the internet. 4 is try to educate yourself, learn more. And 5 is turn auto updates on your devices so that if there are any security patches, they will just be automatically installed on your devices.
Okay, those are a great checklist right there, Nooper. I mean, 5 things we can do right away. I love the 2 authentication security devices in order to get through to a certain site or a certain credit card. You have to have not only the password, but something sent to your phone directly. I love that. I know that the younger generations out there are very connected. They seem most tech savvy. Certainly my kids are teenagers, and they are connected to so many different devices these days. Does that mean they're more careful, and what can they do to make sure they're safe online?
Our data found the exact opposite. So Gen Z was really exhibiting the most unsafe behaviors, about 87% of the time. And then behind them was Gen X and the millennials, who were exhibiting unsafe behaviors about 80% of the time. And really the boomers were the safest, but even they were doing unsafe things, about 70% of the time. So that's still too high. And that is why, again, you need something that protects you in the background, and it always helps to learn more.
Very true indeed. This has all been very helpful, very informational, Nooper. Where can our viewers go online to just kind of not only see what you've talked about today, but maybe just kind of discover and learn new information on ways to minimize their risk?
Yeah, please go to comcastcorporation.com/cyber health report.
Good morning and happy Friday. Let me show you that first alert weekend forecast because it includes a chance for rain. We have a 60% chance on Saturday. It does look like a rainy day, and then maybe even a few showers early Sunday, but it looks mainly dry on Sunday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday, but as that front moves through here, it will bring highs back down to the lower 50s on Sunday. Obviously not a very strong front though, since temperatures aren't going to drop too much. Let's look at timing. So this morning we'll have sunshine and dry, but by 4 o'clock we'll have clouds moving in. You could see a stray shower anytime tonight. If anything, it would be a few sprinkles or some patchy drizzle. But by tomorrow morning, we start to see some heavy rain setting up over towards Dyersburg and into Tipton and Lauderdale County, a few showers in Memphis and DeSoto County. And you'll just have scattered showers all day. So you will see some breaks in the rain. However, with this type of rain, it's hard to plan around it. If I were you, I'd just plan something to do indoors on Saturday. This is 3 o'clock. Again, still some spotty showers around and across the entire area. And we'll keep that around through late Saturday night. This is 7 o'clock. Now, if we did get some heavy rain in any parts of the area, it'd probably be over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. As that front stalls out, it will stick around in those areas, as I mentioned, and there could be some showers in northeast Mississippi through Sunday morning. Right now, though, we have full sunshine. This is what it looks like in Midtown Memphis. But later today, I told you, though, we'll get some clouds rolling in. But even with clouds, we're still going to have temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. At your lunch hour today, around noon for most of us, 50 degrees, 56 at 3 o'clock. So over the next 12 hours, you do get a little spike in temperatures, and then we'll be down to the upper 40s by 7 o'clock tonight if you have any Friday night plans. 56 degrees is the high today, and then 46 degrees is the low temperature tonight. Since we have that chance for rain in the forecast tonight and over the weekend, I highly recommend you get our First Alert weather app. It's free. Search for WMC or Action News 5 in the App Store to download it. And you can use the radar on there to zoom into street level. Plus, we post video updates. And in the updates, we have been talking about the timing for rain this weekend if you want to keep up to date. 50s today. I showed you the 50s over the weekend, too. And we don't really see temperatures dropping down considerably until maybe the end of next week. 56 degrees on Monday with sunshine. We have another chance for rain on Tuesday. A few showers will be possible that day. And then Wednesday we dry out again before our next front arrives on Thursday. And that will bring...
Have you seen this cover yet? This is the latest cover from La Prensa Latina, the Memphis area's largest bilingual newspaper. There it is, MLK Day. The time is always right to do what is right. It is on newsstands right now. I'm joined by the editor of La Prensa Latina, Vivian Fernandez de Adamson. Happy Friday, Vivian. How are you?
Hi, Andrew. Happy Friday. How are you?
Doing well, thank you very much. So there's an article about MLK and the National Civil Rights Museum. Tell me about it.
Yes, absolutely. They're going to celebrate MLK on Monday, January 16th. So they're going to have free admission thanks to FedEx, who is one of the sponsors. And it's going to be an extended schedule from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. So people can go, and check the exhibits, and also, they can have community activities, other activities for children. There's going to be live entertainment, music. So it's going to be a fun day for the whole family, and there's going to be education activities as well. So it's going to be really nice for everybody to learn more, a little bit more about Dr. Martin Luther King.
Okay, sounds like a great event for sure. Something else that's in this new edition of La Prensa Latina has to deal with Pope Benedict and his funeral that happened this week. Tell me more about that.
Yes, I mean, as we all know, he passed away last Saturday. So, they had like 3 days, well, actually almost 4 days, for the funeral at the Vatican. And, I would say more than 200,000 people went to the Vatican City, just for this, just to say goodbye, farewell to the Pope.
Okay, Vivian, and there's another story with regards to migration and the Cuban embassy. Tell me more about this.
Yes, this is another situation that has been really difficult for immigration here in the U.S. We all know that there's a lot of immigrants coming to the country from Cuba and also from Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela, Mexico, and other countries. So for Cuba, this is very special because, the embassy was closed for so long, and now finally they reopened this week. For visas and other documents that, some of the people might need, some of the Cubans that would like to come to this country because they have family here too. So it's very important, not only for Cuba, but also for this country as well, because, it's kind of, controlling a little bit more the situation, the immigration situation that they have here in the country.
Okay, these are just some of the stories that you can find on La Prensa Latina there at laprensa-latina.com. It's on newsstands right now. Vivian, anything else before we let you go?
Yes, please do not forget that this is the weekend where we celebrate Elvis's birthday. And actually, right now, you can't see it right there because of my background that I have, but I'm here at Graceland right now. I'm going to see the exhibit, the new exhibit that they have, which is Making Elvis. This is about the movie that was so successful last year. So, I'm just excited to see this exhibit and I invite everybody to come and see it as well. It looks very interesting, and, you can learn more about not only how they made the movie, but also more about Elvis Presley as well.
That sounds great. I love the movie. I'm sure you did as well, and looking forward to that. And in the words of Elvis, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Vivian.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Like they were talking about, we're now in 2023, a new year, and I want to bring in Commercial Appeal food reporter Jennifer Chandler joining us today because, Jennifer, I know you obviously huge food person. You're the person I want to go to if I'm saying, hey, where's a good place to go if I want to get amazing Asian food or whatever, the place in town. And you put together a story about your 5 top eats for 2022. I don't even know how you did that. How are you doing this morning, by the way?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this is a story I do at the end of every year, and it is probably one of the most fun stories I get to write, but also one of the hardest because I have to narrow it down to 5, where I can tell you I've eaten so many good things throughout the year. But here's what I did to kind of help myself narrow it down. My rule is that it has to be something that I tried for the very first time in the year.
Okay.
So that really
helps a little bit.
That really helps narrow it down a little bit. And then also it helps me, and I try to also find things that are affordable. So I try to stay anything less than $25 so that everyone can go out and try those. So I'm not trying to do something that's, fancy, that's, over the top, that I paid $50 for a dish. Instead, I'm looking for things that somebody can go out and get for $10, $15. So those are kind of the parameters I gave myself when I'm doing this list. And I also really focus on only writing about people that are Memphis-owned businesses. So no chains are ever included in this list, even though I've eaten some good food at chains. But that's how I kind of curated my list here.
Well, let's
get started.
Let's roll out. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. The first one is the Good Fortune Company. They have the best chicken wings I've ever eaten in my entire life. And I have to tell you, there is a picture of me eating them. They're called the GFC wings, and these are not your normal wings. And I have to admit, I love a good chicken wing, but I usually only eat them like at the Super Bowl or if I'm watching a football game or something like that. And but every time I go to Good Fortune Company, I order these, and I joke that I think they should be called finger looking good chicken because KFC can't hold a candle to these things. They are made with so much love. They are marinated. They are then fried once, and it's actually their whole batter that they use is gluten-free. It uses multiple flours. They're fried once, then they sit, and then they're fried a second time right before serving, so that makes them extra crispy. And the sauce is actually, this is very funny, it is a vegan sauce. It's like a honey Szechuan sauce. So it's got a little bit of sweet, a little bit of heat, but not too much. And one of the reasons they made it vegan is because so many people love this sauce. They decided to do a version with tofu for vegetarians. So if you like chicken, get the GFC wings. If you're a vegetarian, but you love the flavors of, hot wings, get the ones made with tofu. Equally, they're a little different, but equally as delicious. So Good Fortune Company chicken wings.
Hey, I want to ask though, what is this beverage that you have here? It looks delicious and it looks different. So I want to hear more about that too.
Well, yeah, so one of the things I love about Good Fortune Company, I mean, it is a tiny little place downtown on South Main, but they make everything from scratch. And as I said, they give all that love just to making a chicken wing. They make all their dumplings from scratch, all the noodles for their ramen bowls, noodle bowls from scratch. And they also have a very, very creative bar. And so that one is a matcha cocktail that I believe had whiskey in it. Ooh. And it was really tasty. And I love that little glassware. It's served like a little glass milk carton.
Right,
Isn't that
I love
hysterical? But it was
great.
really tasty. So it's always fun to go, and I always have a great time at Good Fortune Company. It's a neat little restaurant downtown if you haven't been. It's been open maybe 2 years, maybe 3.
Oh, wow.
And Arturo Lighton and Sarah Kai are the 2 owners, and they just really do a great job there.
Man, so they opened during the pandemic, it sounds like. Wow.
It was right, I believe it was right before. I mean, like literally right before. They were one of those restaurants that have been open maybe a month.
Okay. Well, hey, I mean, I've heard really good things, and obviously they're thriving and doing really well, so I love to hear that. But, okay, so let's get back to this list. I know I got a little sidetracked there. So what's next?
Well, the next one on my list is I'm going to do the wedge salad at Gray's Fine Cheeses. Okay, I know you're saying salad, but look at the salad. That is not your ordinary salad. So Gray's Fine Cheeses is over in East Memphis off Mendenhall, and it is a cheese shop that also is a wine bar. And one of the things that I love to do there is go get one of their charcuterie and cheese plates and a glass of wine. And then I feel like I need to have something a little healthy. So I ordered this wedge salad, which of course covered with Benton's bacon, a homemade blue cheese dressing. It has pickled red onions. You can see that's everything bagel seasoning over the top.
That's the best.
They actually even roast and olive oil cure the cherry tomatoes that go in there. Again, just somebody taking extra steps to really elevate something that we all know and love into something really, really special. And I have to tell you, I think this is my favorite version of a wedge salad, not that I've just had in Memphis, that I have had anywhere, anytime. It is really over the top, and you can see it's huge. It can feed two. Because as I said, what I normally do is get the charcuterie and cheese plate and that, and we kind of split and share.
Right. And see, when I was first looking at your list, and I was like, wait, a wedge salad? And then I start reading the details, and you look at it here, and I mean, the bacon, I mean, it's loaded with bacon. I'm a girl that loves some blue cheese. And then those pickled onions. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just every bacon and any day bacon. It's Benton's bacon, you know, from East Tennessee, which is this really just wonderful, smoky bacon that is just, it's heaven. Really good on that salad.
Yeah, it looks delicious. It makes me want to go get one. So you sold me.
Okay, so next on my list, okay, this one may not look as pretty, but I have to tell you, oh my gosh, it's so sinfully good. Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen has a blue crab top focaccia. So, as I said, the picture doesn't do this dish justice. So Andrew Michael makes their focaccia in-house, and it is really, really a well done piece of bread. And so what they do for this dish is they toast it. And the chef there, Chef de Cuisine there, he is originally from New Orleans. And so what he did is he kind of did a play on kind of like crab au gratin that you get in New Orleans restaurants. That is kind of like crab that's mixed with white wine and heavy cream and simmered down. And it's like warm and it's rich and it's just so good. Well, he puts that over the top of this piece of butter toasted focaccia, and then he takes a paper thin slice of manchego cheese and lays it across the top and puts it under the broiler. So you get this kind of like, at the end you can see where the cheese is kind of like, you know, almost like browned a little bit. So you get this kind of like creamy, crispy cheese thing going on. And then underneath all that is the crab that is just like so rich and so divine. I have to tell you, this is one of those dishes you probably do want to share because it is so over the top rich, but it is just divine. I think I've said that 5 times. That's the best way I can describe this dish.
I love listening to you talk about food because you could sit here and look at it and read the description, but when you start talking about those flavors and like the cream and the way that the cheese gets broiled on there, I'm like, man, it's just like, I'm hungry already. And I just ate breakfast. So if that says anything.
Well, I love to eat. I have to always have. That's why I have this job, is I love to eat. I'll always be on a diet because I love to eat. Speaking of not being on a diet, if you love a fried chicken biscuit, you have to go downtown on a Saturday or Sunday to Comeback Coffee to the Kinfolk pop-up. So Cole Jeans is a chef here in Memphis, and he makes the best biscuits I've ever eaten in my entire life. And he's tried to start Kinfolk as a business years ago. If you remember when Puck Food Hall first opened, I think it was called at the time 409 South Main Food Hall, or he was one of the original vendors in there, and he was doing biscuit sandwiches. And then that concept kind of went through the food hall went through some changes. So he left there and he went to go work for Jimmy Gentry that owns P.O. Press, or owned P.O. Press, which was a restaurant in Collierville. And he was the sous chef there, and he ran the brunches, and he had these biscuits back on the brunch. And so we got to have those biscuits again for a little while. And then P.O. Press closed. And it's been a couple of years and those biscuits are back. And I have to tell you, they're like a Southern biscuit, but made kind of has like a French style. It has herbs de Provence in it. And what he does is he cooks the biscuit. And the only reason I really know what he does is he sold some of these at the holidays frozen that people could take home and bake themselves. And so what you do is you bake the biscuit, which has a ton of butter in it. It's so rich and so good. And then what you do is he brushes the top with a honey butter and puts it in a really high temperature in the oven. So it gives it this kind of like, almost like caramelized top to the biscuit. So the biscuits alone are fabulous, but just like the folks at Good Fortune Company, he has given a lot of love to a piece of chicken to make this fried chicken that goes on this biscuit so good. He marinates it. He uses chicken thighs, so they're a little bit richer. Fries it till it's crispy. He has his own spicy honey kind of sauce that he tosses it in. The sandwich also comes with a little smear of, he calls it kinfolk sauce, which is kind of like I guess his play on a Southern comeback sauce. And it is just so, so good. And one of these things that when you're looking at this picture of him holding this, he has in his other hand this salad looking thing that is not really a salad. It is his breakfast bowl that has like hash browns and an omelet and a biscuit and greens on top, and that's an over-the-top breakfast dish that you should try as well. But here's the deal with Kinfolk. It's only on Saturday and Sunday mornings at Comeback Coffee over in the Pinch District. Check times to see when they start. I think they start at 8 or 9 in the morning, depending on which day, but they go till they sell out, and a lot of times they're sold out by noon.
Yeah,
so
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And he does some sweet biscuits too. And, he has a whole menu that you can try, but the fried chicken biscuit was a standout for me.
It looks delicious. Yeah, I'd want a nap after eating it, though. I would, after eating the heaviness, I'd be like, I think I want to take a nap. But just looking at that biscuit, though, like you were describing with the honey, how he puts the honey on top and then, really gets it all crispy on the top. Because I was wondering, I was like, how does he make it look like that? But it's that butter and kind of that caramelization that happens there. And it looks amazing. Amazing.
It is. I keep joking with him. He needs to sell them commercially because they're so good. It's a biscuit like you've never had. And in fact, I will tell you, so this year I served him for Thanksgiving, as I did on my Thanksgiving table. And then I made my own, which I make every year. I make these pimento cheese biscuits, drop biscuits that I serve. My family all loves them. That's my Christmas brunch recipe. And my mom goes, we should have gotten some of those biscuits that we drove downtown to go pick up. I was like, oh, Mom.
You're like, oh, stabbed to the heart. But no, they look delicious.
That's
they look
okay.
So good.
They're worth it.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So the last one on my list is, there are menu items that have been on forever on restaurants, and there are a reason they're on forever. And I have a funny story why I've never had this. I'm going to talk about the shrimp pot sticker at Tsunami. So this has been on the menu for years and years and years. And I eat at Tsunami all the time. It has been a favorite restaurant of my husband and I's, gosh, probably for almost the 20 years it's been open. And, but my husband is allergic to shrimp. So I have never ordered any of their shrimp things all these years. And this summer, my sister was in town, and we went and we met up at the bar at Tsunami to have a cocktail. And she ordered the shrimp pot stickers. And I was like, oh, I've never had these before. And she goes, how have you never had these before? They're my favorite. And I went, I don't know. And I took a bite, and I was like, oh, how have I never had these before? And I have to tell you, the next time I went, I told Paul, I go, I'm ordering this and I'm eating it myself. Sorry. What I love about these shrimp pot stickers is that they're light, and they're kind of like, you can tell that they're made with freshness and they're made from scratch. And there's a little bit of spice in the shrimp mixture, and they're hand formed, and they're steamed, and they have a ponzu dipping sauce, and everything is just made from scratch. There's no heaviness like sometimes you get at Asian restaurants. They're just a really nice starter, or in the case I've done once or twice now since I've had them, is they've been my main course when I've gone in. They're really, really, really good. And here's one, it's one of those dishes too that Ben Smith, who's the owner at Tsunami, says that he cannot take off the menu because he knows that people would be all upset with them. But they actually ended up on the menu as a fluke. He always loved pot stickers and dumplings, and he had done some special dinner and he had leftover shrimp, and they used to have a pork version on the menu. And so he experimented one day with the shrimp ones, and everyone loved them so much they stuck. And I mean, that's been over a decade. And he said he knows that if he took them off the menu, everyone would be upset.
Yeah, they'd say forget about. They'd be demanding it back, petitioning to have those back on the menu. I don't know how you did it, but you dwindled it down to 5 bites that all look delicious. And by the way, did you have a good New Year's? How was it?
We had a great New Year. So we always go, my husband is a big fly fisherman, so we always go to Heber Springs with a bunch of friends, and had just a really nice friends and family weekend. So it was good. How about you?
Same. We actually went to Hardy, Arkansas, and got to hang out with a group of friends that all met us over there, and we had a really good time. It's right off the lake, so we enjoyed it. We had a really good time, and the weather was nice, so I couldn't complain. Couldn't complain at all. So yeah, it was good. It was good. So if people,
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
Hey, I have a request to you for anyone that wants to give me any suggestions of things I need to try this year in 2023, so they can be on this list next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you're going to get all kinds of suggestions because there's so many options here in town. But people that were maybe watching, they were like, man, my mouth's watering. I want to make sure I know where to go to get these. This story is on commercialappeal.com, correct?
It is commercialappeal.com/food. All of my stories are always there. So definitely check it out.
Awesome. Well, Jennifer, love having you on as always, and we'll see you next time, all right?
Happy New Year.
See ya. Happy New Year.
Okay, that does it for us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Action News 5 at midday with Ariana Poindexter begins at the top of the hour. Then you can join us bright and early on a Monday, 8 o'clock, for another edition of the Digital Desk. Have yourself a great weekend.